Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 867 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Hopefully, it's fully recovered from St. Patrick's Day celebrations day. And it is a snowy day at the Beaver Lodge here. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, or with us for a little bit earlier this morning, was my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Unfortunately, we had some slight audio problems, so we had to do a take 3 today on the show. So for those of you who are tuning in a little later, this is our third attempt at this. We decided to not leave the first two up because it was mostly a lot of us going, "Can you hear me? Huh? But hey, I did find out that at least it wasn't just me when it comes to Restream. Mr. Grizzly has been finding the platform a little peculiar of late, as have I. And I've seen some helpful suggestions from the damn fam in the chat, like for example, switch to StreamYard, which we would be happy to do if we hadn't just paid $700 and something for the year. So we kind of don't want to have the investment go to waste. So I think we're pretty much stuck with Restream for the better part of the next year until maybe we can look at other options, unless Restream finally puts in a patch for everything that's been going haywire since we renewed our membership. But anyway, yeah, we made a big financial commitment when we registered for the full year, so it's not as easy as just picking up and leaving to another platform. If we were very flush, we might consider it and just declare it a write-off. But that's not the case. So we have to stretch this loony. Oh man. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and Cubs, how's your mental health doing today? Considering that I'm on take 3, I'm doing really, really well. I could be a little more upset, but fortunately, in between take 1 and take 2, there was some good damn fam chat there, a couple jokes that I was able to catch and be in on, and of course, any time with Mr. Grizzly is good time. We were talking about a pubcast because we haven't been able to do one of late, and it seems that we might have to wait. One won't be able to happen until about the second weekend of April because yours truly is rehearsing for a cabaret, not a full musical, but just a small little cabaret show. The theater company that does the musicals here wasn't able to find a venue to host a second musical for the season that would be have a stage free long enough for us to be able to do the 2 weeks of shows and the 1 week in there preparing for the show. So instead, we're doing a cabaret. There's a bunch of us getting together and we're singing on Thursday and Friday night various songs from musicals that we like. Actually, well, not so much that we like, but that have been chosen for us. But we did get to make suggestions. So songs that we like. And then on the Saturday for the matinee, we're doing a whole other show with mostly um, Disney movie music, but we did manage to convince the director to put in Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters in there, even though it's not really Disney, just because, well, everybody loves the song, and we do want to we do want to bring butts into the seats. So Golden is on the list. Pure clickbait, pure clickbait. Except you can't click. You have to show up in person. So we'll be doing that on the first in the first few days of April to help the theater company raise some funds for what should have been its second show this year. So I'm working on that, and we have rehearsals Saturday and Sunday this week, and Saturday next week, which would have left Sunday available, but Mr. Grizzly's not available for pubcasts on Sundays. So, and then the following weekend, well, it's the shows. So that brings us to the second week in April. So hopefully we will have a pubcast for you then. We haven't been able to have them on our regular schedule over the last little bit. Again, partially my fault with the show I was involved in the first half of the year, and then life just kind of got a little busy. But yes, we want to get back to our pubcasts. And we will definitely have one at some time in April. I promise you, kids and cubs, unless something really goes super weird with Mr. Grizzly. All right. So yeah, mental health doing very well. Hope yours is too. Um, also doing well because even though we did lose at two stick curling yesterday by 1 point on the very, very last shot, I actually played decently for about only like the third or fourth time this year. Um, I was actually making shots and kept us in the game and actually scored some points. So maybe my form is coming back, or I'm finally being able to read the ice, which would be good because playoffs are coming. I think we have like one or two more regular season matches before playoffs come in two-person stick. So if I can find my range in time for the playoffs, maybe we can somewhat save this season with a good playoff run because I have been atrocious. I have to tell you, my partner, who I found out yesterday, happens to be the oldest member of our club now, with somebody who didn't renew this year. He's 89, and yeah, uh, lots of fun, I have to say. I have a blast playing with him. So yeah, and he's pretty good. So we are in A division. We did get to the semifinals in the playoffs last year. So he's pretty good when we're both firing at the same time. We're a pretty decent team. So and plus, like I said, I love the guy. So yeah. I hope he keeps playing for a long while yet because I like having him as my partner here. But I might be the youngest person in two-person stick and paired up with the oldest person now at the actual club. There you go. Intergenerational. It works sometimes. All right. Today we are going to be talking about kits and cubs. Um, hmm, where did I put it? Oh, I thought it was really nearby. Oh well. Uh, Distractions, because sometimes uh, somebody in politics needs a little now you see me, now you don't. Especially when things start to go bad. So we'll be talking a little bit about Danielle Smith, Doug Ford, Pierre Poilièvre, and Donald Trump, of course. Um, all of them have things that are not going very well in their political worlds and might need a little bit of a distraction. Some of them, uh, in their attempts to distract, are making interesting choices that seem to just cause more problems. Again, if you haven't seen it yet, one of the movies I like to referred to for that is The Substance, if you haven't seen it, with Demi Moore. So it's a bit of a body horror, so it can be gory for some, but it's not too gory. But in that movie, if you've heard me talk about it before, there comes a time where the protagonist makes a decision, and it starts not working out for them. And then in a rush to try to um, fix the problem that is emerging, they make other decisions without necessarily fully thinking them through and saying, yeah, that'll fix it. And of course it doesn't, which leads them to making another decision in even more panic that works out even worse. And well, it gets worse and then worse and then worse until everything just goes horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. So, and for some of the people, if not all of the people on that list, um, should things go horribly, horribly, horribly wrong for them, and it ends up being in leading to their political demise with a certain degree of finality, I would be fine with that. I really would. I'd be super fine with that because they would have brought it upon themselves. And I kind of like that when that happens. Plus, I live for the awkward moment. So, yeah, hopefully, people are starting to see the light. Hopefully, given that we have Mark Carney and that, well, based on public opinion polls, it seems that when you give Canadians the option of calm and competence and intelligence, they kind of like that. Other parties should maybe take a tip from that. Just saying. And in the case of the four people in question, again, Danielle Smith, Doug Ford, Pierre Poilièvre, and Donald Trump, calmness, intelligence, and competence. I, um, I think it's time for a sip. Mm. Yeah, that's my commentary. I tell you, sometimes it feels like they've all come equipped with 100-watt bulb sockets, but keep on insisting on screwing in 20 and 50-watt bulbs because not too bright, not too bright. Uh, and this, of course, there was a little chat in there in discussion in the chat about the people in the EU seemingly liking us a lot. Um, we had this big vote that happened a couple of days ago that overwhelmingly went in favor of Europe seeking stronger ties with Canada. And then we have the fact that we are involved in the SAFE program, of course, the first non EU nation invited to participate in that. That allows us to bid on a whole bunch of military procurement. We have the Swedes who are very interested in us, specifically when it comes to the Gripen in helping to build that. The Ukrainians are always very much with us as we are with them. We have the Norwegians and the Germans who are really interested in us and would love us to buy their submarines. The Koreans feel the same way. China and India are taking our calls. Australia is really happy to take our call. The ASEAN bloc of nations is currently negotiating a free trade deal with us, as are, I believe, the Philippines and Thailand specifically. We are talking with the Mercosur nations in South America about maybe striking some type of trade deal with them. We recently signed a full free trade deal with Indonesia. Um, and it seems that there's also something involving Peru that happened just the other day. Um, we signed a memorandum of understanding with them of some kind. I'm sorry, had it in front of me and I lost it, and I am looking for it here because I saw it not too long ago. And hopefully, see, I was looking to make a very um, 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 smooth transition between the subjects here, and it didn't happen. I'm so sorry here. I thought I had it right with me to say what it is that I had with Peru. But yes, there was some talks with Peru, and we ended up signing something. And there's this photo that's really interesting. Here we go. Canada and Peru signed a memorandum of understanding on critical minerals and sustainable mining, according to Natural Resources Canada. And it says here, as demand for the materials that power defense, advanced manufacturing, clean technologies accelerates, the need to work with our allies, secure, diversified, and resilient critical mineral supply chains has never been greater. Since summer 2025, the Government of Canada has signed 21 mining and critical minerals bilateral collaboration frameworks with global partners and led the creation of a G7 Critical Minerals Production Alliance, which has unlocked $18.5 billion in capital for mining projects in less than 6 months. And those 21 mining and critical minerals bilateral collaboration frameworks do not include one with the United States. The United States might want to get on that really quickly if they want there to be some supply left by the time they affix their signature onto a document. A signature, of course, that means absolutely nothing. But hey, I guess there's always hope. Further to that work today, Canada's ambassador to Peru, Jean-Dominique Irachi, on behalf of the Honourable Tim Hodgson, Canada's Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, and Peru's Minister of Energy and Mines, Angelo Victorino Alfaro Lombardi, signed a memorandum of understanding to advance cooperation on critical minerals and sustainable mining. The agreement focuses on advancing bilateral investments, driving technological solutions for traceability and decarbonization, improving regulatory and governance frameworks, promoting environmental and social best practices, and building skilled and diverse workforces. It strengthens Canada's role as a major foreign mining investor and boosts our exports of mining equipment, technology, and services to Peru, creating new opportunities for the Canadian mining industry. This agreement is a testament to Canada's reputation as a reliable place to do business, a premier investment destination, and a trusted ally in mining and processing. By building supply chains with allies, coordinating investment, and aligning standards, Canada is ensuring the materials that underpin modern economies and national security remain accessible, sustainable, and secure. Jean-Dominique Irachi, the ambassador, said this memorandum of understanding reflects the strength of Canada and Peru's bilateral trade relationship and underscores our shared commitment to deepening cooperation in the mining sector. Together, we are fostering innovation, promoting responsible resource development, and building the skilled workforce needed for a low-carbon future. Yeah, it's Canada is the second largest investor in Peru's mining sector, with approximately $11.2 billion Canadian in assets held by 67 Canadian exploration and mining companies. And in October 2025, Canada's Mining Innovations Commercialization Accelerator, or MICA, hosted the Canada-Peru Mining Innovation Summit, bringing together industry leaders and government representatives to deepen bilateral collaboration. The summit focused on driving innovation, expanding trade and investment opportunities, and advancing sustainable resources development aligned with Canada's critical minerals strategy. So there you go, kits and cubs. A little bit of news on that. And in addition to all of this, it seems that Africa has been, the whole continent has been wondering, Mark Carney, where are you? You've been visiting all these other places. And, we're a fast growing emerging economy. Maybe you would like to stop here. We're waiting for you. The United States, of course, wants to annex us, and the EU, as I mentioned, has been talking about having us have in closer ties, and possibly even joining. The French foreign minister suggests that Canada could maybe at some point join the EU, according to the Canadian press. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot is openly mulling the idea of Canada seeking membership in the European Union. Speaking at the Europe 2026 conference in Berlin today, Barrot said the European Union is attracting more candidate countries such as Iceland and suggested maybe Canada at some point will sign up. Barrot smiled while mentioning Canada, and his comments generated some laughter from a panel moderator and applause from the audience. The idea of Canada joining the EU has been floated by some, such as Alberta politician Thomas Lukasik, while others reject the idea of adding Brussels to the existing federal and provincial rules. Prime Minister Mark Carney dismissed the idea last June, saying that he wants clearer and broader ties with the continent, but not as a member of the EU. Carney has visited EU countries many times over his first year in office to strengthen EU ties in trade and defense. Yeah. So yeah, the EU openly suggesting that would like to join at some point, and that we would indeed be welcome were it the case. So yeah, there's this video here on TikTok that I'm going to show you that puts the idea out there just a little more than it maybe was a few days ago.
Let's stop saying that Europe has not delivered. We are the most advanced union of nations in history.
Well, this is, of course, freedom of speech. This is, of course, democracy.
We are the largest solvable market on earth, and that we are the most democratic society. Because people live better in Europe than they do in China or in the US. And because so many countries around the world are willing to join us, to get closer to us.
So the Western Balkan,
Iceland,
Norway,
and maybe Canada at some point.
I'm open for Canada.
He thinks like I do.
Yeah. We in Europe must stand together.
It requires everlasting resolve and faith. But the good news is, Joanne and I have plenty of resolve and plenty of faith. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, musing loud about Canada. Turns out, as I mentioned before, once we realized that our man didn't want us anymore, we got our hair done, check our nails, baby, how we feeling? And then we went on down to the International Singles Bar, also where everyone is cheating. Shaved our legs, and it turns out we're in demand. We're a hot little number. Everybody wants to get close to us. Interesting. It's like even the United States apparently wants us back so bad. They want to annex us. We prefer flowers and chocolates rather than forced coercion, however, so their advances are not being met with the enthusiasm, as Ambassador Hoekstra, I think, would call it, that they would like. Where's the enthusiasm for the Canada-US relationship? We were wondering the same damn thing, dumbass. Hey, Joni Mitchell. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? US, you're going to see the back of us when we walk. It was your choice, though. You told us. You told us we didn't have anything you needed. We just chose to believe you. And then we went to find somebody else who likes what it is that we got to offer. A little this and that. Oh man. Yes. I see you're talking about the other queen too. We'll get to her today if we have the time. But yeah, that kind of stuff is happening. So in the context where everybody is asking about us and calling us, they like to call us on a cell phone late night when they need our love. Hey, Canada, you up? We sure are. We've been taking applications, darling. Very busy reviewing. Very, very, very busy reviewing. We are. We have certain people who are not doing very well, unfortunately. One of them those people who are not doing very well, dear kids and cubs, is Danielle Smith. Danielle Smith, if you realized, uh, has had a couple of difficulties. The AHS scandal would be one. There's, of course, she wants, whether or not she's a separatist or not, seems to be another one. She is. But, trying to pretend that she's not in some way, shape, or form. Then we have certain things with regards to gifts. And then we have, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So I guess the other day she tried a distraction because it was deemed official that the World Cup of Hockey will be coming to Alberta in part in 2028, which had her giving a press conference that was a little interesting in that I'm going to show it. Well, I'm going to show you an image from here on the show so that you can take a look at it. And if you can see what she's wearing, she is wearing a big hockey jersey with the word Canada on it. She, of the people who are bending backwards so much that Cirque du Soleil contortionists are envious for separatists, is wearing a Canada jersey while boasting that Alberta is one of the sites for that big hockey event. And a lot of people are kind of mocking her for that. I personally am surprised that her skin didn't just erupt in blisters or she didn't, spontaneously combust upon putting on that shirt. But apparently, maybe she is Canadian enough for that not to have happened. Or she was just very good at not showing her discomfort from her skin blistering under that shirt. Because if there's any love of Canada in that body, we haven't seen it much of late. But that's not the only one of Danielle's problems of late. There are a couple of stories in the press that are not very good for her. Two of them involve Mr. Sam Mraish, who is the firm that is his is the firm that is involved somewhat in the healthcare probe going on. According to the Globe and Mail's Jana Pruden and Kerry Tate and Tom Cardarso, the RCMP have executed search warrants as part of their investigation into procurement irregularities at Alberta's Health Authority, a controversy that has dogged Premier Danielle Smith's government for more than a year. The Mounties, in an email to the Globe and Mail on Wednesday, said officers had, quote, executed multiple search warrants but would not provide further information. At least a dozen RCMP officers were inside and outside the MH Care Medical Corporation's headquarters in Edmonton on Wednesday. The medical equipment supplier is one of the companies under scrutiny for its ties to public servants at Alberta Health Services and provincial politicians. Officers at the scene on Wednesday declined to comment. One thing that I'm finding interesting about this is that I'm not sure if there has been a search. I can't remember, I should say, if there has been a similar search with regard to Doug Ford and the Greenbelt that has been named public. But I'm noticing in this case that just a little over a year and offices are being raided. And in Ontario, it's been how many years now since that case has been referred, the Greenbelt case alone, and there's a whole bunch of other cases involved, but the Green case alone was referred to the RCMP, and we haven't heard much about it at all, like any updates at all. So this is moving pretty fast in Alberta. The RCMP a year ago confirmed that they were investigating allegations of inappropriate procurement procedures in the province's healthcare system. Sam Raish, an Edmonton entrepreneur, owns MH Care. A Globe and Mail investigation published last year detailed Mr. Raish's connections to senior officials in the Alberta government. He has previously told the Globe that he acted appropriately and that he denies any wrongdoing. David Postel, a lawyer for Mr. Moraes, declined to comment when reached late on Wednesday. I would assume that when somebody's headquarters are raided, the lawyer and the person who owns the headquarters are not particularly inclined to want to provide comment. Alberta Health Services former chief executive Athana Mentzelopoulos alleged in court documents that the government fired her for investigating possible conflicts of interest in some contracts tied to Mr. Mraish. The government denies Ms. Mentzelopoulos' allegations, which have not been tested in court. MH Care has been awarded more than $600 million in business by Alberta Health Services since 2020, including $70 million for a 2022 deal to import children's medication from Turkey, roughly a third of which was delivered. That's the Tylenol or the Tylenol thing. A marked RCMP SUV was parked outside MH Care's office Wednesday afternoon. Officers were also spotted getting into unmarked vehicles. A woman who answered the phone at a neighboring business said RCMP were also at MH Care's headquarters on Tuesday. MH Care was closely tied to the government's plan to purchase children's acetaminophen and ibuprofen from a new supplier during the North American shortage of those medications in late 2022. Alberta Health Services signed the deal with MH Care to import 5 million bottles of the painkillers from a manufacturer in Turkey. Let's try that again. Alberta Health Services signed the deal with MH Care to import 5 million bottles of the painkillers from a manufacturer in Turkey. Very little of the medicine was ever used, and most of it was either donated to other countries or destroyed. And the cost, there was also a fairly hefty price tag to inventory all of that until such time was decided to destroy it. And then there was a healthy price tag to destroy it as well. It would be interesting if someone could do the cost of the full deal, not only the $70 million to purchase it, but the cost of destroying it, the cost of inventorying it, all the fees, the research fees, everything, the PR fees with that. But yes, and to find out how much those 700,000 bottles that we were supposed to receive really did cost us in full. According to Alberta Health Services, they spent approximately $718,000 to destroy the remaining inventory of the medication. Spent roughly $500,000 on storage. When only 1.45 million bottles ever arrived. Interesting. Medicine was ordered in 2022 during a national shortage, but arrived after the shortage had ended. It was also removed from hospitals because its high viscosity caused clogging in feeding tubes. I believe also that they were not the appropriate dosage for children. And yes, while you could cut the pills, it's not a precise dose when you're cutting and you're eyeing it. So yeah, lots of things going on with that to make Danielle's life a little more difficult. So yeah, let's keep on. Alberta's Auditor General, Doug Wiley, is also investigating allegations of improper procurement at Alberta's Health Ministry and Alberta Health Services. Cheryl Schneider, a spokesperson for the Auditor General, on Wednesday said the process had taken, quote, longer than anticipated due to the ongoing receipt of relevant documentation and the availability of key interviewees. Mr. Wiley expects, quote, the document review and interviews will be complete and findings determined by the time his term wraps up at the end of April, Ms. Schneider said. While the report will not be prepared before Auditor General Doug Wiley's term concludes on April 28th, the office has a capable team in place to complete the work. Ms. Smith also appointed a retired judge from Manitoba to review whether the health ministry and agency had followed their own procurement policies. Raymond Wyant, in a report released in October, determined that Alberta Health Services did not follow procedure when it signed the deal with MH Care to import children's painkillers from Turkey. He also concluded that both the health ministry and Alberta's health services had failed to follow their own rules when signing off on a private surgical center in Edmonton. Matt Jones, one of Alberta's 4 ministers now overseeing healthcare in the province, on Wednesday said the government plans to tighten the rules around healthcare contracting, including by banning employees from using personal email while conducting government business and expanding protections for whistleblowers in response to the sprawling controversy. Again, I'd like to note here that the government of Alberta is banning employees from using personal email while conducting government business, while meanwhile in Ontario, Doug Ford has been using his personal cell phone, and maybe some other of the people under him have been using them as well as a way to keep watchdogs, investigators from seeing the records and understanding what they're doing. So in Alberta, like I said, I just noticed it's really interesting that we are banning employees from using personal communications to do the public's business, whereas in Ontario, we are fighting in court to continue the process of, if not using personal devices to do public business, shielding the records of that. Of course, in our opinion, once you start using your personal phone to do public's business, it is now a public phone. It is no longer a personal phone. He said the government will adopt all 18 recommendations that Mr. Wyant submitted as part of his report. Mr. Jones highlighted a handful of incoming changes, largely focused on addressing conflicts of interest when discussing his department's budgets at the Standing Committee on Families and Communities. Quote, "We're ensuring all perceived or actual conflicts of interest are managed, disclosed, and enforced both internally and when dealing with suppliers and service providers," he said. Quote, "We're reviewing legal and contractual frameworks to ensure all applicants and contractors are held to the highest ethical standards, and we're strengthening procurement thresholds and signing authorities to prevent misconduct and restore public confidence." Sure you are, Jan, sure. Sam Blackett, a spokesman for Ms. Smith, did not respond to an email seeking comment late Wednesday. So, search at the headquarters here. And then, not only that, going not so well for but a second bit of news here with regard not so much to her, but it's maybe something that has some elements that could come back on her. But again, just to go to the narrative that she hires only the best people who follow all the rules and meet all ethical standards, because they are known for their unimpeachable ethical disposition. Let's put it that way. This is according to Tom Cardoso and Carrie Tate. 2 companies involved in the construction of addiction recovery facilities in Alberta are mired in litigation, with accusations of forgery on one side and allegations on the other of threats and intimidation involving businessman Sam Raish, the man at the center of the province's healthcare procurement controversy. The lawsuit raises more questions about the expenditure of public money on a signature health initiative of Premier Danielle Smith's government. The dispute involves contractor Maluka Homes Limited, owned by Louis Samaskowicz and his son John Samaskowicz, and the similarly named Maluka Construction Management Services Limited, whose principal is Mohammed El Dasuki. The 2 companies were working together to build recovery centers in 3 Indigenous communities, one for the Enoch Cree Nation, another for the Métis Nation of Alberta, and a third for the Tsuut'ina Nation. The projects are worth a combined $100 million, according to court filings, and are funded through Alberta government grants. Because, yes, why not use contracts that are supposed to deliver services to the Indigenous community as an opportunity to maybe do some things that are underhanded? The court feud over recovery centers began last July when Mr. Eldasuki sued the Samaskowiczes. According to Mr. Eldasuki's statement of claim, Maluka Homes president Louis Samaskovich walked into a bank in early 2025 with an alleged forged share sale agreement from Mr. Eldasuki's company and wrongfully altered corporate records, obtained control of its bank account, and directed that its $8.4 million contents be transferred out. The bank transfer has set off a flurry of civil claims and legal jousting that have come to encompass more than 20 individuals and companies. Wow. Okay. So went into the document, went into the bank with documents, and then emptied the bank account. Wow. That reminds me of the story we had just a few days ago, the Prosperity Project and one of its leaders having done some things. I think Dennis Modry, his name was, stealing from his own family. His family is seeking $1.3 million after a court order saying, because the judge had ruled that Modry had misappropriated the money from his elderly aunt and uncle's bank accounts. It was a March 2025 ruling. So Danielle Smith is closely linked to a man who has been ordered to pay back $1.3 million because he misappropriated the money from the joint bank account of his aunt and uncle who suffered from Alzheimer's and dementia. On one hand, and on another hand, seems to be doing a lot of business with a company or people who are alleged to have used wrongfully altered corporate records to obtain control of another business person's bank account and transfer out all the financial contents of it. If you keep on attracting these people around you, at some point it's going to raise questions about yourself. 2 months after being sued by Mr. Eldasuki, the Samaskowiches responded with a civil action of their own. In a counterclaim, they alleged that the undisclosed, quote, directing mind behind Mr. Eldasuki's was, drumroll please, Mr. Mreish, who is Mr. Eldasuki's brother-in-law. The contractors also say they were the target of threats, intimidation, and demands for, quote, exorbitant amounts of money from Mr. Mreish to keep payments on projects flowing and are seeking more than $25 million in restitution. None of either party's allegations have been tested in court. Mr. Mreish denies the allegation in his court submissions and denies any wrongdoing. Scott Hutchinson, a lawyer for Mr. Mreish, told the Globe and Mail that the case concerns a commercial dispute in which Mr. Mreish has played no role and has no business or financial interest whatsoever. In court filings, the Samaskowiches deny that any records were forged and say that Mr. Eldasuki drafted and signed the documents in which he allegedly sold his business. The Samaskowiches' lawyer did not respond to the Globe's requests for comment. The business dealings of Mr. Mreish and his medical supply business, MH Care Medical Corp., are being examined by the RCMP and the province's Auditor General, although neither have said that recovery centers are part of their investigation. MH Care has been awarded more than $600 million in business by Alberta Health Services since 2020, including $70 million for a 2022 deal to import children's medication from Turkey, roughly a third of which was delivered. A Globe and Mail investigation published last year detailed Mr. Mreich's connection to senior officials in the Alberta government. Mr. Mreish has previously told the Globe he acted appropriately and denies any wrongdoing. Yeah, he says that a lot. The question is, why are there so many occasions for him to say that? Some people would like to know. Addiction recovery centers at the heart of Alberta's response to the opioid crisis. The province has earmarked up to $350 million to build 11 centers, including the 3 worked on by Maluka Homes. The government has previously said that once they are operational, the centers will be able to offer care to more than 2,000 people each year. While addiction services were previously managed by Alberta Health Services, they now fall under Recovery Alberta, an agency created in 2024 under the Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction. In an emailed statement, spokesperson Nathaniel Duick said the ministry, quote, has always followed rigorous and transparent funding processes to ensure public resources are used prudently, and that the procurement and selection of vendors for Indigenous recovery centers was managed by Indigenous organizations. Way to throw them under the bus. And it's really interesting how in all of these cases, there's always somebody that says, we always follow rigorous and transparent funding processes to ensure public resources are used prudently. And yet here we always seem to find ourselves. Just say. Kenny Trenton, a spokesperson for the Métis Nation of Alberta, said the nation remains confident that its government and its officials acted in good faith and with integrity. That's also a line we hear often in these cases, and declined to comment further, citing the continuing litigation. Chief Ellery Starlight of the Association did not comment on the lawsuit, but said in a statement the nation is reviewing its policies and procedures. Spokespersons for the Enoch Nation did not respond to requests for comment. The Samaskawitches and Mr. Eldasuki began working together in 2022, according to court records, under an arrangement in which Mr. Eldasuki would help identify projects for the Samaskawitches' business. Not long after that, the Samaskawitches claimed in the lawsuit they were introduced to a man named Fred, who told Louis Samaskawitch he would control Maluka Homes' payments on projects identified by Mr. Eldasuki and could put an end to them at any time. In their court submissions to the Samaskawitches, said it was made apparent to them that Fred had, quote, literal control over the construction work and the government officials behind them. According to the Samaskawitches' court filings, they later learned that Fred was, in fact, drumroll please, Sam Raish. In addition to being Mr. Mresh's brother-in-law, Mr. Eldasuki has served as a senior executive at two of Mr. Mresh's companies, including MH Care. In Alberta, they have Fred. In Ontario, they had Mr. X. The United States has John Barron. And, well, Pierre was once Jeff. Allegedly. And, well, Danielle Smith, there's the whole issue. A lot of people refer to her as Marlena Klodnicki. What is it with everybody changing their names or needing aliases while claiming that everything that they do is completely above board and respects all the rules and is fully transparent? I don't know. Seems to me that you don't need to change your name that often. But anyway, let's keep moving on. In a statement of defense, Mr. Mresh said his involvement in Mr. Eldasuki's enterprise was limited to providing, quote, casual, unofficial, and informal business advice. The Samaskawitches identified engineering consultant Khaled Farour as the person who introduced them to Mr. Mresh, or Fred, and have named him as a defendant in their counterclaim. But in his statement of defense, Mr. Farour denies making that introduction and says he had no knowledge or control regarding which construction projects were provided to Maluka Homes. His lawyers declined to comment on the allegations. The Samaskawitches' deal with Mr. Eldasuki soon led to new business, the counterclaim shows. After being selected to build 2 apartment complexes for the Métis Nation of Alberta in 2023, in early 2024, the contractor was tapped to build recovery centers in 3 Indigenous communities. But the arrangement between the 2 companies would ultimately become strained as the contractor allegedly faced demands for money from Mr. Mresh and Mr. Eldasuki on its construction projects, according to the Samaskawitches' claim. During one phone call between Louis Samaskawitch and Mr. Mresh, the latter told Mr. Samaskawitch he had the government connections necessary to, quote, pull Maluka Homes projects, and indicated he had ties to a senior executive at the Métis Nation, a man named Aaron Barner. The Samaskawitch's claim alleges, quote, I own Barner and he will do what I say, Mr. Mresh is alleged to have said. After that conversation, Mr. Barney allegedly told Mr. Samaskawitch that meetings between the Métis Nation and Maluka Homes were cancelled until further notice, effectively pausing the project. According to the Samaskawitch's submission, work only resumed after Mr. Samaskawitch authorized the release of funds to Mr. Eldasuki. In his court submissions, Mr. Eldasuki denies exerting pressure on the Samaskawitches or making an improper request for payment. Mr. Barner, for his part, says in a statement of defense that he asked that the Samaskawitches cease contact in response to, quote, repeated and improper communications between Maluka Homes and Métis Nation personnel. Mr. Barner also denies he is a business associate of Mr. Mraish and Mr. Eldasuki, and says he did not act on anyone's instruction. A lawyer for Mr. Barner did not comment. During another meeting, this time at MH Care's office, Mr. Mraish allegedly demanded, quote, an exorbitant amount of money and threatened to use his connections to cancel Maluka Holmes' projects, the Samaskowitches claim in their lawsuit. To demonstrate his influence, Mr. Mraish allegedly called his friend JP, an Alberta government insider, and put him on speakerphone. According to the Samaskowitch's submission, Louis Samaskowitch understands this man to be Jitendra Prasad. Now, where have we heard that name before? Who was a senior procurement official for the Alberta government. Last year, the Globe documented Mr. Prasad's involvement in the Alberta Health Services procurement controversy and his ties to Mr. Mraish. A lawyer for Mr. Prasad did not respond to the Globe's request for comment. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why. In the article back from, when was this? There seems to be no date on it, but the one that was published asking who is Sam Mraish, that whole article, Mr. Prasad is mentioned several times. It says here, Danielle Smith's former chief of staff, Marshall Smith, hired multiple relatives of Mr. Mraish at the same time he was living in a home owned by one of Mr. Mraish's sisters. At the health agency's most senior purchasing official, Jitendra Prasad, helped facilitate a deal between Mr. Mraish's company and a COVID-19 test supplier, an agreement that later ended up in court. Interesting. Then the article goes on to say that Mr. Mraish's company became a health agency supplier, and that was a coup. As Canada's largest integrated health system, Alberta Health Services, which offers care at more than 800 facilities across the province and employed more than 100,000 people, enjoyed significant purchasing power. The health agency's ability to source medical supplies during the global crunch was so notable that Jason Kenney, then the province's premier, applauded Jitendra Prasad, Alberta's Health Services chief procurement official, during a speech in the legislature, and featured bureaucrats at press conferences. Over the next 3 years, Mr. Mraish's medical supply company, MH Care, was awarded $614 million in business, according to documents. Mr. Prasad later claimed to have been essential to these contracts. In an email to colleagues in late 2022, he wrote he handled all the dealings with MH Care during the pandemic. Interesting. Mr. Prasad was in on certain calls, according to the document. Anyway, Mr. Prasad seems to have been, his name features about 22 times in the investigative article. Interesting. So interesting things going on there. So interesting to see that his name pops up again here. It says that a lawyer for Mr. Prasad did not respond to the Globe's request for comment. The Samaskowitches also say in their court submission that the lawyer they hired to handle payments on 2 of the 3 recovery centers, who allegedly came at the recommendation of Mr. Eldasuki, improperly sent nearly $7 million to Mr. Eldasuki's company. Public records show that the lawyer, a man named Brian Ward, has acted for Mr. Mraish on several occasions, including in a civil lawsuit, in real estate transactions, and in a dispute with Elections Alberta. Mr. Ward denies having acted improperly in his statements of defense, and his lawyer did not comment. Gee, I wonder what dispute with Elections Canada could have involved Mr. Sam Mraish as well. This here says that Elections Alberta investigated Sam Mraish, the Edmonton businessman embroiled in Alberta's healthcare procurement controversy earlier this year over allegations he made illegal political contributions to the province's United Conservative Party and New Democratic Party, court records show. The authority disclosed its investigation into Mr. Mraish this summer when it asked a provincial court to find him in contempt for failing to participate in an interview. The existence of the probe has not previously been reported. Mr. Mraish's lawyer said his clients has sat for an interview. Elections Alberta withdrew its contempt application in September. Quote, Mr. Mraish is alleged to have given funds to other people for the purpose of having those people make contributions to a registered party. Oh, the same type of thing that led to Pablo Rodriguez losing his job as the leader of the Quebec Liberal Party. The alleged donations were made in the 2 months prior to the May 2023 provincial election, according to her affidavit, which was filed in support of the contempt request. A lawyer for Mr. Mraish denied that his client improperly provided funds to others for the purposes of political donations in a letter sent to Elections Canada in May, the court's filings show. Interesting. And all the time, Mr. Mraish said he acted appropriately and properly and denies any wrongdoing. In the investigative report that I was referring to earlier, the Globe and Mail found that, for instance, that Mr. Mraish joined Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's inner circle in a hotel suite to watch the provincial election results in May 2023, and that she and at least 7 ministers attended Edmonton Oilers games with the executive. But again, nothing wrong. Wow. Okay. Back to the main article. In early 2025, Mr. Samaskowicz and Mr. Eldasuki struck a new agreement according to the Samaskowicz's court filing. Mr. Eldasuki would transfer ownership of Maluka Construction for $1 million plus an annual salary. In exchange, Mr. Eldasuki would sign over Maluka Construction's shares for the nominal value of $1. A few weeks after Mr. Eldasuki allegedly signed the share transfer agreement, Mr. Samaskowicz attended a bank to empty out the Maluka Construction's $8.4 million account, the event that triggered Mr. Eldasuki's lawsuit. Mr. Eldasuki says in his court filings that no such sale agreement took place, that the documentation used to execute the bank transfer was forged. Lawyers for Mr. Eldasuki did not comment on the court case. While the dispute between the Samaskowiczes and Mr. Eldasuki continues in Alberta, it also now extends internationally. In December, Mr. Eldasuki obtained a court order in the Bahamas, temporarily freezing several of Mr. Samaskowicz's assets in the country. As of publication time, the Globe had not been able to obtain the full court file from the Bahamas. A lot of and things going on with people who are very closely associated with Danielle Smith. But that's not where it ends for Danielle Smith. On her own, she's got a couple of things going on. According to the Canadian Press, published March 17th, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says she's traveled on a private plane on behalf of the Saudi government last fall. The Premier and a few members of her staff had traveled to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates in late October and early November to discuss potential collaborations on energy development, artificial intelligence, and more. The Premier's office had never discussed the flight publicly before, but Smith confirmed it at a legislature committee meeting in Tuesday. Sorry, let me try that again. The Premier's office had never discussed the flight publicly before, but Smith's confirmed it at a legislature committee meeting in Tuesday in response to budget questions put to her by opposition NDP leader Naheed Nenshi. Smith said the provincial ethics commissioner had signed off on any non-commercial travel ahead of the trip and that it was proposed by the Saudi government for efficiency purposes and to visit places with limited commercial airline services. She said one of those stops was at a major oil field that produces over 1 million barrels per day and that has since been shut down in the wake of the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. Having that perspective was really important for me to have, Smith said of the oil field visit. Smith told the committee that she had met the Saudi energy minister, Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, a few years ago at an energy convention in Calgary. He is a member of the Saudi royal family. He and I had a bond over the fact that we believe that we should be reducing global poverty at the same time as we're reducing global emissions and making sure we have energy security, Smith said. Yes, because that's what the Saudis are known for, their global fight against poverty. The Premier said it was the pair's friendship that led to the minister to invite her to visit and be hosted by the government. She said she also stayed in accommodation provided by her counterparts, which was social protocol and also approved by the Ethics Commissioner in advance. Smith said she had met with a number of other officials as part of the trip, including U.S. Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum, multiple ministers in the UAE government, and an official with the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. The Premier's comments came in response to Nenshi asking about apparent receipts missing from the trip and noting that the Premier and her staff had flown into Riyadh, the Saudi capital, flown out of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Nenshi had said the trip cost Alberta taxpayers some $64,000 and questioned Smith's claim that there was limited commercial airline services between the two centers, saying it was one of the most popular commercial flight paths in the world. He also called on her to table in the legislature any advice she was given by the Ethics Commissioner on accepting the flight. Nancy said in a statement later Tuesday that he was disappointed that Smith, quote, waved off questions about the appropriateness of accepting the flights. I asked her twice to table her correspondence with the Ethics Commissioner, and I expect her to do so. Travel expenses were a key theme of the committee meeting, with Nenshi also asking Smith to justify the nearly $20,000 spent on her trip last year to a fundraising gala in Florida, where she spoke alongside controversial conservative media personality Ben Shapiro. I'm going to guess that that's the PragerU thing that she attended. Gosh, I guess that was March of 2025, so not only this past fiscal year, but I guess the previous fiscal year, so it's 2 public accounts ago, Smith said Tuesday about the trip. Yeah, so? She said PragerU, the company that the event was benefiting, has connections to members of U.S. President Donald Trump's Republican Party, and her goal was to discuss how bad the president's tariff plan was for the economy on both sides of the border. Smith, responding to Nenshi, saying Shapiro has anti-Muslim values and that her appearance with him harmed the community, said her appearance doesn't mean she agrees with everything Shapiro says. At least we agree that tariffs are bad, and I think that's a very positive message for him to be getting out. I see. Yeah, it's very positive for him to get out the message that tariffs are bad. Little moment here. Nenshi and the Alberta NDP made a little video based on this. And thought that you might want to see this because it is showing that the Alberta NDP does appear to have a little bit of fight in it. And I have a feeling that this is not the right window. So let's try this one here. There we go. That's the correct one. Let's make it full window for you. There you go. And let's see what Mr. Nenshi and the Alberta NDP have to say.
Do you remember this photo? It was taken in the Calgary Airport Business Class Lounge, the day that Danielle Smith bailed on her caucus after introducing the notwithstanding clause to strip away the charter rights of teachers. We just learned what she was doing. It was so that she could accept lavish gifts from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia government. She said it herself.
When it comes to the flight that the member was asking about to Saudi Arabia, it was a private plane, non-commercial aircraft. It was proposed by the government of Saudi Arabia.
She justified it by saying somehow this private jet and luxury trip was about fighting global poverty. Are you freaking kidding me? Her recent budget makes it harder and harder to live here during a cost of living crisis. Yet somehow flying on private jets is her way of fighting poverty. This is about entitlement and corruption, pure and simple. And it has to stop. That's why we put up this bill. No more skyboxes.
This legislation puts guardrails back in place to enforce ethical standards for MLAs, cabinet ministers, the premier, and the political staff who work with them in order to restore trust.
And of course, the UCP shot it down because they like their entitlements. This government shows us time after time that they've got no ethics. They've got no respect for everyday Albertans. They don't want to make your life better. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. Premier Danielle Smith tells us over and over again exactly who she is and exactly what kind of government she runs. Albertans deserve better, and Alberta's New Democrats will be the better government you deserve.
So yeah, the Alberta NDP showing that they have some claws. And by the way, the better government that you deserve is a pretty darn good tagline. I would suggest that Mr. Chi uses that a bit more often. Also, apparently, she was asked at one point to list who it is she met with when she went to the United States. And she provided a very long list of all those people. And it was that Nahed Nenshi and team decided to do a little fact checking into that. And it would appear that, how would you put it? That people don't really have much recollection of having met her, or no recollection at all, or just outright admitting that they did not see her. So it seems that she may have lied about that as well. We also have Mr. Nenshi here with regard to the AHS scandal and some questioning that he was doing as part of the Standing Committee on Alberta's Economic Future. So let's have this for you, kids and cubs. Again, the wrong one. Restream. Come on, work with us here. Go. So there you have that. Mr. Nenshi being particularly effective when it comes to Danielle Smith. So yeah, that's going on with her. Looking at a couple of other people that things are not going very well with. The other one is Doug Ford. Now, Doug Ford is having a real interesting time because it would appear, according to the polls, Angus Reid every month puts out a poll of the Premier's approval and and particularly people in their own provinces think of them. And according to the most recent data, I'm sorry, it keeps on showing the wrong screen every time I want to show something. There we go. If we look at this data here, come on, show it. There we go. Restream. What are you doing? François Legault's at 26% approval. Doug Ford is before last at 31st with 31% approval. So people don't like him much at the moment. Not at all. It's also starting to show up in public opinion polling in general as well. Kids and cuss, if we look at this data here, collected from 338.com. My word. I set all these things aside before starting the show. and still having some trouble here. I'm not sure how this is going to show up on your screen, but I will show it just in case. It does show up well. Yeah, it doesn't show up all that well because the numbers are small here. But Abacus polling has had its recent results up and says that the Ontario PCs are leading by 12. Now, that may seem a lot, but if we are looking at Abacus data, right here, this was from November. It showed the PCs at plus 28. And then we get to January, PCs plus 16, February, PCs plus 14, and now we're in March, they're at plus 12. They're dropping. With Angus Reid, we had the PCs at plus, I believe it is 23 here or something, or no, plus 20 in September. And by November, PCs were at plus 13, looking at some, hoping to get some Angus Reid data soon to see what the drop is there. If it continues. Liaison had the PCs at plus 14 in October, then at plus 9 in December, then at plus 7 in January, and then down to plus 4 in February. And then we also have Palace data that had the PCs at plus 19 in September, at plus 17 in November, and at plus 13 in January. So Ford appears to be losing his grip. It's still not a big enough slip to show that another party is rising to take control over him, although if we're looking at the liaison polls, there's only a 4-point spread between the Progressive Conservatives. And that has led to Doug Ford maybe engaging in certain behavior that is a little interesting and making some comments that are interesting. And there are some accusations of him essentially flooding the zone with a whole bunch of stuff in order to make it such that he doesn't have to face the scrutiny, which is something that Donald Trump does a lot. Now, one of the issues on which he is trying to not face scrutiny has something to do with his proposed freedom of information changes. According to Isaac Callan, this for Global, he had a very interesting thread that I want to bring to you. It says, Ontario's proposed FOI changes will likely kill a court order relating to Doug Ford's personal cell phone. They'll also probably end a high-stakes battle involving a former chief of staff and their potential use of personal emails during the Greenbelt, or the Greenbelt scandal. When Ontario's Auditor General released her report into the Greenbelt scandal in 2023, it included an important section, quote, use of personal email accounts contrary to public service cybersecurity guidelines. After reading that, we submitted a Freedom of Information request for any emails on Steve Clark's Chief of Staff's personal email account. An unrelated request from the NDP had found Ryan Amato had at least occasionally used his personal account. The government gave us a handful of emails Amato had forwarded to his work account. We appealed. Officials said Amato had left government and they'd done all they could to retrieve the emails. And then Brendan Kennedy of the Toronto Star had filed a similar request to theirs. It took more than a year, but an adjudicator with the Information and Privacy Commission partially sided with Global and the Star. They ordered the government to try harder to get emails from Amato and report back. A couple of months later, the commissioner wrapped up a broader investigation into the Greenbelt scandal. She found the government had used code words and personal emails and broken its, quote, legal record-keeping obligations. The Amato file was silent for months. It turned out behind the scenes, the IPC had lost patience and used its most powerful tool to compel the former staffer to be examined under oath. He refused, seeking a judicial review of the demand, because this is all behavior that is consistent with having nothing to hide and being very transparent. That judicial review was due to be heard sometime this year to determine whether the IPC could compel Amato to answer questions about his personal email under oath. If retroactive changes to FII rules go ahead, it's likely to vanish. And this is one of the reasons for which we need to care about what it is. Mr. Callan also had another that was rather interesting. And well, not a thread so much, but bring our attention to a story about flooding the zone. Now, this, of course, is a story that he, along with Colin DeMello, have written. But I will bring it to you here because this is indeed something that he is doing, and it's another way that Doug Ford is like Donald Trump, even though he keeps on saying now that he doesn't like him anymore, that Donald Trump drives him crazy. Critics in Ontario say a flurry of government announcements on justice, alcohol, and roads is designed to distract from sweeping changes the progressive Conservatives are planning to apply to the province's transparency laws. On Friday morning, Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement Stephen Crawford announced the government would clamp down on freedom of information laws, retroactively exempting himself, Premier Doug Ford, and his cabinet from disclosing their records. The changes will exclude emails from cabinet ministers and their staff, meaning they won't be subject to scrutiny. It would likely nullify a court order for Ford to release records from his personal phone, which he says he calls CEOs, politicians, and advocates on. Since that announcement, news has rained down from Queen's Park. Later on Friday afternoon, Ford posted a pre-recorded video on social media saying his government would seek an injunction to ban the Al Quds Day rally in downtown Toronto. The video was posted before lawyers filed paperwork with the courts. The government didn't have its case heard until 3 hours before the event, which happens every year, was due to take place. A judge threw out the request saying the province had failed to meet the legal threshold. Later on Friday, the Ford government also made good on the Premier's promise to let malls open for shopping on both the Family Day and Victoria Day long weekends. So, hey, Ontario, if you have a family, no Family Day for you. While Doug Ford only shows up 59 days per year at the legislature to do his work. But you're the lazy bum that needs to get off your ass, according to. Then, over the weekend, Ontario's Attorney General wrote a letter to the federal government asking it to consider legalizing pepper spray in self-defense. Monday saw Ford announce a legally complicated plan to live stream bail hearings. Yes, because let's demand more transparency for people who are accused of something but not yet charged. Let's put their face all over the place. But when somebody actually, when you get a court order to make your phone records public, let's not be transparent about that. Let's not live stream that. Right, Doug? Everybody else needs to go to work but you. Everybody else needs to be transparent and face the consequences for their actions but you. On Tuesday morning, the Ministry of Transportation said it would begin allowing vehicles without passengers to use high-occupancy vehicle lanes. Hours after that, the government unveiled a broadening of its tailgating rules, which won't come into effect until September. It's a distraction. Flood the zone. Put out as many stories as you can so you're not talking about the Premier tried to hide from accountability, Ontario Liberal MPP John Fraser said. Between the announcements, Ford has also taken questions about the transparency changes. On Tuesday, he appeared to acknowledge the sweeping changes were motivated by a desire to keep his call logs secret. Ontario NDP leader Merritt Stiles said the volume of announcements only underscored her interest in what calls or messages could have motivated the Premier to prepare a law to cancel out legal defeat. Quote, there has to be something really significant for the Premier to be dropping so many of these predictable announcements, she told reporters. My goodness, it's booze, it's pepper spray, anything to distract from the fact he's losing in court and he doesn't want anybody to be able to access his cell phone records. And of course, as we know, we have a standing hypothesis here at the show that if it isn't about booze, cars, or developers, Doug Ford has got nothing for you. Fraser said the announcements the Ford government has made since unveiling its Freedom of Information law changes are easy to implement. Quote us, you'll notice one other thing he said. The stuff he does wants to talk about, like you can bring your own booze or you can drive in this lane. It's all easy, stroke of a pen stuff. He can't do the hard stuff. He can't make class sizes smaller because he's not interested in that, or finding people a family doctor because he's not really interested in doing that. It's a game to hide from accountability. Ford is scheduled to hold another news conference out of Toronto on Wednesday. So Dougie Doug, flooding the zone with all these little announcements. To not talk about his phone records. Then Doug Ford seems to be really going into the Donald Trump thing. You remember how Donald Trump always speaks in terms of I know more about technology than anybody. I know more about vaccines than the experts. I know more about military intervention than the generals. I know more about the Strait of Hormuz than the people, the mermaids that live in the water there. Donald Trump always knows more about everything than everybody else. Well, kids and cubs, let's have a little Doug Ford emulating or borrowing a page from the Republican down south that he once allegedly so loved.
This is economics 101, folks, but 99% of the politicians across this country don't get it. They'd rather tax you to death. And I can't stand taxes, and government drives me crazy.
And government drives him crazy. He who's mused about being premier for life. But government drives him crazy. He knows more about economics than the 99% of the politicians out there. And that's why Ontario is doing so well economically right now. Right? That's why parents are surrendering their high needs children to the Children's Aid Society, hoping that kids under the care of the Children's Aid Society get access to services that they can't get for their kids as parents. But it's a failing exercise because the services just aren't there for anyone. Yeah. This government is so good with the economy, understands it so well. Masters of the economy, apparently. And then, of course, Doug Ford, in another attempt to divert, decided to, along with the pepper spray, because being tough on crime, that's another one, right? Cars developers, booze, and being tough on crime. This one's longer. It's about 2 minutes and a half, but a little rant from Doug Ford with how it is he's also trying to change the channel from his own suspected political or white-collar crimes by advocating that we become just a little bit more like the United States of America, borrowing a page that certain other politicians have been using of late to get out of trouble.
As for the person that was defending his family, he was a legal gun owner, or stored properly, congratulations. Yeah, I'm glad you shot the guy. Teach us the rest of these robbers, and I encourage everyone out there that's a legal gun owner. Someone's going to come in and try to kill you and kill your family. Remember, it was just last week, Jamie, one guy got shot because he was trying to protect his kids. Well, you know, these guys, they need to be shot, as far as I'm concerned. You're coming through the front door to hurt your family. I'll never forget the one family that the man was protecting his 4-year-old kid, and his child, I should say, and there was 3 other children there and his wife, and they assassinated him right in front of his kids. Like, these ruthless, like, they need to rot in jail for the rest of their lives. Congratulations for shooting this guy. Should have shot him a couple more times, as far as I'm concerned. And everyone should be out there, legal gun owners. And by the way, the federal government, they're spending so much time on going after legal, law-abiding gun owners that safely store their guns, safely store their ammunition, their hunters or their sport shooters. I have an idea. Rather than wasting hundreds of millions of dollars going after legal gun owners, why don't you spend that hundreds of millions of dollars going after the bad guys? You know, they always want to protect the bad guys. The judges always want to protect the Charter of Rights. How about the Charter of Rights of the people to keep them safe, rather than always protecting these criminals? I'm just sick and tired of it, and I can tell you, folks, I talk to a lot of people. I get 1,000 calls, I'm not exaggerating, 1,000 calls and messages a day. People are done with this. They're done with all these crazy protesters and nasty people and breaking into homes and stealing cars. We all grew up here. Did we experience this 10 years ago? No, we never experienced this. People in Toronto never experienced this. I'm guessing about 5 years ago, people just were so brazen because we have some great judges, but we have some really weak-kneed judges letting these criminals out on bail, not once, not twice, 4 or 5 times, just to go, okay, Johnny, go out and break into the next house. They're violent criminals, and we're going to hold them to account. And thank you for getting me going, Jamie, because, but it's the truth. What I'm saying, a vast majority of the people are thinking in the province. I can assure you of that.
So yeah, there's Doug Ford doing his Donald Trump. When you arrest them, they put their hand on their head, before they put them in the police car. Say, why are you being so nice? Don't be so nice. Congratulate him on shotting him. Shot him. Should have shot him more times. Kits and Cubs, don't follow Doug Ford's advice. Laws are such in Canada that you are allowed to use force to defend your property and defend yourself, but you are allowed to use reasonable and proportional force. Not necessarily deadly. Don't follow advice from Doug Ford. And then he goes off into the why are they going after law-abiding gun owners and all that kind of stuff? It's like, and again, nobody's going after law-abiding gun owners. They're going after the gun owners who are law-abiding until they are not. That person who shot that person that Doug Ford was congratulating, had they shot him the number of times that Doug Ford was mentioned, might be in a little bit more trouble. There's an interesting story on that. City News by Man Almadi and the Canadian Press. Charges were tossed or evidence was excluded from Ontario court proceedings hundreds of times over the past decade due to police officers in urban areas violating the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, a new report examining more than 600 cases has found. Report co-author Sunil Gurmukh, an adjunct law professor at Western University, said in an interview after the report's release Wednesday that people accused of criminal offences are frequently, quote, walking free because of violations by officers in Toronto, Ottawa, and Peel, York, and Durham regions. Quote, police have a tough job, but they can still get to the bad guys without breaching the charter, he said. This is especially the case when officers deliberately violated the charter or were negligent or where courts have flagged systemic issues. The research looked at 627 Ontario court rulings between January 1st, 2015 and May 31st, 2025, in which police officers were found to have violated charter rights more than 1,000 times. So to all these provincial politicians that keep on saying, oh my God, I can't understand why all these criminals are being set free all the time, jail or jail, not bail. Oh, how do all these people that commit all these crimes keep on getting left out all this time? Maybe there's a part of it that you can control, like making sure that police services, which is under your jurisdiction as premiers, offer better training, because clearly these police officers are not getting it. Instead of always blaming Ottawa for going after law-abiding gun owners. Maybe you, a premier, can deal with all these charter-violating police officers. Maybe. The report said in 70% of the cases, evidence was excluded, proceedings were stayed, or a sentence was reduced, something that researchers argue undermines public trust and harms victims. Gurmukh noted the research did not look at cases in which a suspect was not charged or the Crown decided to withdraw charges. He said police forces, oversight agencies, and provincial and federal governments must do more in response to rights violations by officers. Quote, to enhance public trust, legitimacy, and safety, there must be monitoring, accountability, transparency, and independent oversight. For starters, prosecutors should report charter violations to police chiefs so services can conduct investigations, said Gurmukh. Police services and boards should track violations, report them annually, and publicly review policies, procedures, and training related to the systemic issues in our report. He suggested that the Provincial Inspector General of Policing should also conduct a broader review, noting that officers' conduct can have significant consequences in individual cases. Quote, guns, drugs, reliable evidence of child pornography, and breathalyzer test results are being excluded from evidence in trials. Gurmak said the most common charter rights violations consisted of officers conducting unlawful searches and seizures or delaying suspects' access to legal counsel. These violations are preventable. We don't live in a police state. The charter protects all of us, he said. And that's another thing that Doug Ford keeps on going to and people go to in these cases. Why are they protecting the rights of the criminals more than they're protecting the rights of the people? The rights of the victim should be protected more. When we get to a court case in a trial, the victim is alleged to be a victim and the perpetrator is alleged to be a perpetrator. And given the number of people that are incorrectly charged, the role of our justice system is not to put the rights of some above the rights of others, but to ensure that all parties involved have their rights equally defended and respected, both alleged victims and both alleged perpetrators alike. Mr. Ford does not seem to be able to understand that about our justice system. These violations are preventable. We don't live in a police state. The charter protects all of us, Mr. Gurmak said. It's why police can't search our homes without reasonable grounds. A qualitative analysis of cases involving the Toronto Police Service and Peel Regional Police Force found systemic issues including racial profiling, not telling accused people about their right to a lawyer without delay upon arrest, and not respecting their right to choose their own lawyer, Gurmak said. Quote, courts have criticized the Toronto Police Service for failing to bring in custody accused to bail court within 24 hours of arrest. This systemic problem has persisted for more than 20 years. Courts have called it a, quote, culture of complacency. The analysis found 11 cases where police officers in Toronto and Peel Region lied or gave false testimony, Gurmak said, including 6 cases that involved multiple officers doing so. Gurmak said the courts excluded evidence or granted a stay in 10 of those cases. He said researchers also found 15 cases in which Toronto and Peel officers conducted unlawful investigations into alleged child sexual exploitation, because you would think if there was alleged child sexual exploitation, that would be a case that you would like to handle by the books if you really care about the children getting the people that do this. But no, it seems not. And courts excluded reliable evidence from trial because an officer violated the charter in 11 of those 15 cases. In 2022, Gurmak said, this is an example he provided, Gurmak said evidence of child sexual exploitation material was thrown out in an Ontario Superior Court Let's try that again. In a 2022 example, Gurmak said evidence of child sexual exploitation material was thrown out in an Ontario Superior Court of Justice decision after Peel Police deliberately exceeded the limits of a search warrant by staging a fake delivery and searching areas of a home that they had no authority to search. Quote, police overreach and disregard for the charter have undermined the integrity of prosecutions, he said, adding that this has put the safety of children at risk. Yes, because when you don't do the investigation right the first time and you actually do have a perpetrator and they go free, they get to cause more damage until you nab them again. You would think that they would get it right the first time. You think that they would meticulously be doing what they need to do to get it right the first time. Toronto and Peel Police did not immediately provide comment. Gee, I wonder why. Speaking of stays, the other queen here. This was in yesterday's CBC from Colleen Silverthorne. Crown prosecutors have stayed the charges against the cult leader whose group occupied a former school in a southwestern Saskatchewan village. Quote, evil rules over good, said Brad Miller, mayor of Richmond, Saskatchewan, after hearing charges against Romana Didulo, or Deluded, or Dilaudid. The self-proclaimed Queen of Canada had been stayed. Didulo was set to appear in Swift Current Provincial Court on Wednesday, but Crown prosecutors issued a written stay of proceedings Tuesday. The reason for the stay is not yet clear. CBC has reached out to the Crown Prosecutor's Office for clarification. Dedulu was charged with failing to comply with an undertaking and intimidating a justice system participant. The charges came after police raid on September 3rd, 2025 at a former school in Richmond, population 120, about 365 kilometers west of Regina, near the Alberta border. Dedulu and her followers were living in the school building for nearly 2 years, during which village residents said cult members harassed and threatened them and plotted to take over the town. Quote, "What that stress did to my body and to everybody else, your mind will probably know in 10 years, Miller said. The village eventually cut sewer service to the cult's compound at the Saskatchewan Health Authority ordered people to leave the unfit building. RCMP raided the compound after receiving a report that one of its occupants had a firearm. Police said they seized 13 imitation semi-automatic handguns, ammunition, and a large number of electronic devices. Miller praised the RCMP for coming to the village's rescue in September, but he said the justice system has failed police and residents by staying the charges against Dedulu and 3 other supporters. "We're deeply hurt by what the prosecutor has come up with," Miller said. "I think somebody dropped the ball along the way, and I think those people know who they are." Dedulu's followers could be emboldened by the news that she beat the court system, said Christine Sarteshi, a Chatham University professor of social work and criminology who researches cult movements. Quote, "Her group really looks for evidence that she's a powerful woman who does run the country," Sarteshi said in an interview. "I just can't see this as being seen by them as anything but a win." Sarteshi keeps track of Dedulu's group and believes their numbers have thinned since last year's raid, but they stay connected through the internet, and some supporters are still with her in Regina. Richmond residents are right to be concerned Dedulu will return with followers, she said. Quote, "They finally got something, some way to protect themselves, and it doesn't seem like that's going to hold," Sarteshi said, adding that the Crown Prosecutor's Office must explain why the charges were stayed. Sarteshi said she expects Dedulu to be more careful in public to avoid further legal trouble. Quote, "But I still don't think it's going to stop her from doing what she's doing," Sarteshi said. "I don't think she's going to close down shop. I think it's like, hey, I'm very powerful. I beat the Canadian court system. Wouldn't you want to follow me? Because I'm the queen, and here's the proof." Ricky Mans, who owns the former school where the cult was living, still faces charges including failing to comply with an undertaking and intimidation of a justice system participant. Mans is also charged with assault, resisting arrest, and uttering threats. Those charges stem from an alleged incident in July 2025. As part of the stay of proceedings, Dedulu's bail conditions were also removed. She had been ordered to stay away from Richmond, and Mans was prohibited from having weapons. Miller doesn't think the cult members will return to Richmond because the school building is uninhabitable. But if they come here, I don't know. I can't hold anybody back, and maybe I'll be on that front line trying to push them out. So yes, clearly something was not done well in that case, too, for there to be a stay of charges. So once again, yours truly has competition for Queen. Hopefully, I made the most of the past 2 years and have consolidated my turf. P.S. Send money. Oh, my word. On, kids and cubs. Pierre Poilièvre, on his trip to the United States, we've been mentioning the last few days, hasn't had much to report. Stepped in it with the Don Cherry thing, did a St. Patrick's Day, I guess, having a beer or invitation to the beer with the Prime Minister, which was really, in which he claimed the Prime Minister was all foam and no beer, but the only foam I saw was the frothing at Pierre Poilièvre's mouth during that video. Well, and doesn't seem to be reporting anything from the United States after his first day. It seems that he had some meetings with the governor of Texas, Mr. Abbott, who doesn't support a woman's right to choose, for example. I think he might have met as well with Ken Paxton. Yes, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, which is very interesting because Mr. Paxton is someone that you would think somebody would not be making some time to meet with because he has faced years of intense controversy including a 2023 impeachment for bribery and abuse of office, an acquittal by the Texas Senate, a 2024 settlement regarding securities fraud charges. He was accused of using his office to benefit donor Nate Paul and faced federal investigations. Yeah, he was indicted for securities fraud, accused of soliciting investors for a tech company without disclosing he was making a commission. The case was resolved in 2024 with the deal requiring him to pay nearly $300,000 in restitution and complete community service with no admission of guilt. Yeah. And then there's a personal controversy in 2025. His wife, Senator Angela Paxton, filed for divorce on, quote, biblical grounds, citing, quote, recent discoveries. Wonder what those recent discoveries were. So, yeah, this is the people that Pierre Poilièvre was meeting with. So I can understand why it is that he probably didn't want a lot of press about meeting people of such, well, only the best people, really. Right? But there's one thing that Pierre did take time to do while he was there, something that he probably should have done, I don't know, 13, 14 months ago. In fact, it was suggested to him that he do this 13, 14 months ago, but he didn't at that time. But he's going now. According to CBC News, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is set to appear on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the world's most popular podcasts. Poilievre revealed in social media that he had recently sat down with host Joe Rogan. Quote, fought for Canadian workers and Canadian interests on the world's biggest podcast. Thank you, Rogan, for an amazing conversation. Let's get tariff-free trade, the opposition leader wrote on X. I doubt very much that going on a podcast is how you fight for Canadian workers and Canadian interests, particularly when you go on that podcast when you are nearly 20 points down, or even more than 20 points down, according to certain polls, more on that later, from the leader of your nation, less than a year after having been about 26 points up and having the prime ministership locked up. It seems to me that if you want to have any real influence fighting for Canadian workers and Canadian interests, had Pierre Poilievre gone to the United States to go on the Joe Rogan Experience after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had called others of the opposition in for a meeting in January, I believe it is, of 2025, and asked them to work their contacts stateside for the benefit of Canada, that maybe that would have had more meaning. But now that you're behind, it just looks like you looking for a PR opportunity. And based on that Mickey Jurich, I think, report that appeared in Politico, in which he's having trouble meeting with high-ranking people in the United States because, well, they already consider him a loser, and the only thing they know about him is that he did that apple-munching video and then lost an election and his seat. Not sure. You might be thinking that you're fighting for Canadian workers and interests, but I'm not sure who you're fighting them for. A Conservative spokesperson confirmed with CBC News that the 3-hour-long episode of Rogan's podcast featuring a conversation with Poilievre will be released Thursday. Rogan's show ranks near or at the top of podcast charts on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, with over 20 million subscribers on YouTube alone. But the podcast host has faced backlash in the past for his controversial comments. Musicians, including Canadian Neil Young, pulled their music from Spotify over comments Rogan made regarding COVID-19 vaccines. Young's music returned to Spotify after Rogan's show was no longer exclusively available on the platform. Rogan also issued an apology in 2022 after facing scrutiny for his use of the N-word in some of his past episodes. While Pierre must have felt quite at home, he who likes to use the word tar baby in the house. In a podcast episode after last year's federal election, Rogan implied he had invited Poilievre on his show during the campaign, but the Conservative leader declined. Quote, I offered to have that Pierre guy come on the podcast. He didn't do it, wouldn't do it. thought it was too problematic or whatever Rogan said in the episode. Yes, I guess going on a podcast of somebody who had trouble not using the N-word would be problematic for you as you're trying to become prime minister, especially after all the hay you made about someone having appeared in blackface so many years ago. But now that you're 20 something behind and you might be losing even the red meat base, I guess because now you have to say a couple of things that are a little harsher about Trump. You want to keep on feeding them that red meat, so then you go on to Rogan. Now it's not problematic or whatever. Now it's get me in there as fast as I can because I'm slipping. And I need to show that I'm relevant. Hey everyone, I can get on Rogan too. Now watch me carny. Watch me clip. Now watch me carny. Now watch me clip. Now watch me carny. Oh my God. Poilievre recently appeared on the Bridge podcast where he said his current approach to interviews is to speak with various new and traditional media outlets. Quote, I think in order to grow, we have to reach out and talk to people who have different viewpoints than us, Poilievre told host Peter Mansbridge, former chief correspondent for CBC News. I've been seeing also that some people have been looking at the views and have noticed that Mr. Mansbridge usually gets a higher number of views per episode than the one he got for Mr. Poilievre. That would be some interesting data to check out. Interesting. Because, yeah, I think Mansbridge just recently celebrated, I think it is his 20 millionth download of his podcast. It's frequently number 1, 2, or 3 on the political charts. But yeah, taking a look here, just taking a look here, seeing what they've got. I'm seeing the latest Good Talk that happens on Friday that has Bruce Anderson and Chantal Lebert. 9,000 views. The Good Talk previously 94,000 views. The previous Good Talk 88,000 views. Pierre Poilievre's interview 57,000 views. A lot of the other, I'm looking at the other ones, More Butts interviews about a month ago here, 67,000 views. Raj Russo, Let's Break a Deal, 1 month ago, 77,000 views. Of course, Pierre Poilievre is only 2 weeks ago with 57,000, so we'd have to see where he is in about a month. But yeah, the Good Talk with on Iran, which was just 5 days ago, already has 99,000 views, whereas Pierre's interview only got 57,000. So it's a low number of views so far. So yeah, it seems that Canadians weren't really as interested to go check him out there. I have a feeling it will be pretty similar to the Joe Rogan thing. Only the most devout members of the cult will go and check it out, and everybody else is going to consume it through a clip here, a clip there. And what he says will be reinterpreted. I don't know if Pierre was the guest for the full 3 hours or whether or not it will just be a segment of it. A lot of people are suggesting that, he probably won't do himself too much damage from doing that. And that's possibly the only reason he could do that is that when Pierre goes on these types of shows and when he starts to feel that he's got a friendly audience, sometimes he gets a little too comfortable, and then he says things like that comment he made about the RCMP being despicable when he was on another podcast here. So maybe there's a moment like that when we finally hear it. Who knows? But if we assume that he is going to be as well scripted as possible. It'll probably be something that is, he might be, at worst, might be over stiff during the conversation or not seem natural enough or that type of thing. But yeah, he is definitely gone on to Rogan. But things are not going well for him in other fronts as well, because he made that big auto pact announcement, and Unifor has come out and him a letter. Dear Mr. Poilievre, our union watched with interest the public release of the Conservative Party of Canada's auto strategy on March 15th. Canadian auto workers face an insecure future due to unjust U.S. tariffs and unfair trade. The threat of industrial restructuring leading to permanent job losses and plant closures looms large for our members, their families, and communities across the country. Unifor is Canada's largest private sector union, representing more than 320,000 members nationwide and more than 40,000 auto workers employed across auto assembly, independent parts manufacturing, and auto dealerships. The existential nature of this threat to one of Canada's most critical industrial sectors warrants government attention, regardless of political affiliation. That attention must focus on action backed by necessary public resources and bold policies and programs to stabilize our workplaces, expand the production footprint, and invest in our industrial future. Most importantly, these ideas must be rooted in the experiences of auto workers. They must be formulated with auto workers and their families in mind. They must get to the heart of the challenges we face. They must be rigorous, well-researched, and defensible. Mr. Poilievre, I have concerns and questions with some of what your party has presented. We are encouraged by your effort, but skeptical that this plan can restart idled Canadian facilities. In fact, we fear it may prevent prevent potential future growth, which I do not believe is your intent. About the tariff-free auto pact. The central feature of the CPC plan is the establishment of a new tariff-free auto pact, which harkens back to the 1965 trade agreement between Canada and the United States, premised on shared production methods and trade investment reciprocity. Of course, the original auto pact was established in a starkly different industrial climate, one where 4 North American-based automakers dominated both production and sales in both Canada and the US. Today, of course, the auto industry is global, with dozens of automakers building and selling cars inside and outside of North America, some of which have no local production presence at all. The CPC policy approach was presented as follows, quote, for every car produced in Canada, the same manufacturer would get to sell a car in Canada duty-free from a CUSMA partner on a dollar-for-dollar basis. The claim was that such an approach will, quote, restore our nation's auto production to 2 million cars per year over the next decade. Unfortunately, this claim, based on our understanding of your plan's design, is incorrect. It is true that Canadians buy approximately 2 million new light-duty vehicles per year, and that in 2025, Canada built about 1.2 million vehicles, the lowest annual total since the pandemic. This depressed level of production largely reflects the fact that 2 domestic assembly plants, Oakville and Brampton, have been idled, while retooling for new vehicle programs, and 1 additional assembly, Ingersoll, has shifted its product program from high-volume passenger vehicles to low-volume commercial vans. The Ingersoll plant is also now idled. Regardless of the specific reasons, there's a production to sales deficit that needs addressing, and the CPC strategy is correct to point that out. However, trying to resolve this production to sales deficit by focusing strictly on North America, which is how it appears to be conceived, the CPC plan cannot achieve its intended objectives. It may instead create the conditions on which auto sector investment in Canada is constrained permanently, threatening the future of both Brampton and Ingersoll assembly plants. And which was really interesting is that in his speech delivered in Windsor, because he didn't have the gonads to do that on the U.S. side of the border, he actually went to the U.S. side of the border, came back to Canada to deliver that speech, and then went back to the U.S. side, where he accused Mark Carney of managing or presiding over managed decline, is specifically what Pierre's policy actually is, managed decline. Here's why. Unlike in 1965, North America is not a self-contained market for vehicle sales. Approximately 500,000 cars in Canadian showrooms come from overseas, about 25% of the total market, and do not originate in either Mexico, the United States, or Canada. A similar situation exists in the United States, but with roughly 25% of their sales market, approximately 3.5 million vehicles, being served by non-North American built imports. In 2025, Canadians purchased approximately 1.3 million cars that were built in North America. These are the vehicles that would be captured by your party's CUSMA-specific auto pact proposal. In turn, in 2025, Canada built approximately 1.1 million cars for sale in North America. While it's not a perfect 1-for-1 ratio, which is the CPC plan target, it is very close, approximately 0.85 to 1. I can tell you that as vehicle production restarts at the currently idled Oakville assembly plant this year, overall production volumes in Canada will begin to rise, thereby bringing your CUSMA auto-pack ratio closer to 1-to-1 alignment. Yes, there is still a deficit, but not enough to sustain any future production plans at Canadian plants. Not if the hope is to return to high-volume vehicle production, and if it is to return it to Brampton and Ingersoll, which is the priority for our union. I urge you to keep this in mind, that a fully operating light-duty vehicle plant will assemble roughly 250,000 vehicles per year on 3 shifts. What this means is that under your plan, any meaningful investment in those 2 plants would put Canada in a surplus position, a deterrent to bring work back into those facilities. I truly do not believe that this was your stated intention, but I must be clear with you. Our union will not accept any policy proposal that risks the long-term future and viability of Brampton and Ingersoll. The CPC plan wrongly implies that under its proposed tariff-free auto-packed Canadian vehicle production volumes could increase by as much as 800,000 units over the decade. As explained above, and based on its CUSMA-only orientation, this is mathematically incorrect. With regard to the Unifor's sell here, build here vision, Unifor has asserted its basic framework position for Canada's auto sector. If companies want to sell here, they must build here. I recognize the CPC strategy shares this broad sentiment, as does the Liberal government's recently announced auto strategy. However, neither of these plans present a complete or comprehensive resolution to the fundamental problem. Automakers that profit from Canada's lucrative sales market have no obligation to invest and create jobs in this country. This must change. Part of this ongoing effort must focus on restoring tariff-free access in automotive goods between Canada and the United States, a bilateral trade relationship that is in near perfect balance. On that measure, we agree with the CPC's objectives. Focusing both on external markets for Canadian vehicle exports, as the government strategy purports to do, is implausible and likely to fail. Nevertheless, neither the Liberal nor CPC plan fully addresses this disproportionate one-way flow of imports originating from non-North American sources. Unless an auto strategy fully respects the global distortions in both automotive trade and investment, there will be serious flaws in the approach. The CPC policy contains additional measures that we wish to raise. We agree it is imperative Canada follow through with security safeguards on foreign vehicle technology in line with efforts previously undertaken by the former Biden administration. Further, Unifor supports the CPC's concerns regarding China and the implications that steadily increasing market access will have on future jobs, investment, and production in Canada. At the very least, Canada must impose strict safeguards to contain the expansion of assigned import quotas among Chinese OEMs. Strong efforts must be made to monitor and reinforce restrictions on importers attempting to bypass import quotas as well, including through knockdown kit assembly operations. The CPC policy calls for an extension of CUSMA's automotive rules of origin. It is worth noting that CUSMA rules of origin are not working as initially intended, as documented by Unifor in multiple submissions and interventions made to the federal government since 2024. Many automakers have demonstrated an unwillingness to abide by CUSMA local content terms and have opted instead to pay the relatively minor most favored nation tariffs, particularly in the U.S. market. This is unacceptable. Unifor supports a series of technical improvements to the rules of origin, including rules applicable to component parts as well as special labor value content provisions, to ensure maximum local content and requirements to build more vehicles in North America. We urge the CPC to support this call. Of course, the CUSMA itself and its rules of origin serve no legitimate purpose until such time as the Trump administration complies with the agreement's terms. The U.S. has completely abrogated its commitment under the treaty, including a commitment to exclude Canadian vehicles and parts from the Section 232 tariffs. It is important the CPC auto strategy considers this critical fact. Unifor supports consumer purchasing policies aligned with Made in Canada principles. We look forward to further details on how the CPC auto strategy intends to operationalize its proposal. However, it is worth noting that a GST rebate on relatively low volumes of car sales will have no material effect on long-term production levels in Canada. Further, a GST rebate on finished vehicles fails to address key powertrain components, like engines, built by unionized Canadian workers installed in vehicles that are assembled south of the border. The public funding for this measure may be better served as part of a broader short-term tariff mitigation strategy. Mr. Poilievre, I hope you received this letter in the constructive spirit it is intended. An industry such as the auto sector that has deep roots in history in Canada, that supports the cornerstone of our country's industrial base, and on which 125,000 workers rely on, is complex. Key parts of the CPC auto strategy require further reflection and ongoing dialogue with our union. Our union will continue to advocate with all political parties to support a long-term vibrant auto industry in Canada, one that continues to drive good, unionized jobs and robust supply chains. I look forward to discussing this further with you at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, La Payne, National President of Unifor. So that was not a total dressing down but definitely not a resounding success. Once again shows that Pierre Poilièvre's trip might have been rushed rather than well planned or well executed, because it seems that if you were going to go make that type of announcement, you probably wanted to take some time to check in uniform before you do that. And maybe with Flavio Volpe, who's with the Canadian auto parts manufacturers. Maybe. Perhaps. According to CBC News, there's an article based on this. It says, over the past few weeks, Canadians have seen two very different visions of what federal politicians think the future of the automotive industry should look. First, Prime Minister Mark Carney laid out an auto strategy that focused on building Canada into a global hub for electric vehicles. It included billions of dollars in investment, EV incentives, and new trade partnerships beyond the United States. Then this past Sunday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre unveiled his proposal while in Windsor, Ontario. It centered on restoring tariff-free access to the American market and reviving a modern version of the Auto Pact. It also calls for removing the GST from Canadian-made vehicles. But what do auto workers want Ottawa to fight for? James Stewart represents thousands of them in Canada's car capital in the Windsor area. Stewart is the president of Unifor Local 444, which includes Stellantis assembly plant employees. Quote, I'm going to tell you, both are flawed. Both won't fix the problem, Stewart told CBC Radio's Windsor Morning host Amy Dodge on Tuesday. Quote, we have to make sure we're going in and finding solutions to the trade barriers with the U.S. because that's where we sell our cars. We don't sell them to around the world. While the rest of Canada's economy attempts to diversify and the Prime Minister pushes to try to make sure Canada is less dependent on America, Stewart says it can't be the same story for the auto sector. Quote, our buyer is the United States and Canada. 90% of the US and 10% Canada, he said. Europe doesn't buy our cars. South Korea doesn't buy our cars. China definitely doesn't buy our cars. Japan doesn't buy our cars. That's the world we live in. We have dozens of companies that are building cars and shipping cars to North America to the tune of 5 million vehicles every year. Their math is wrong, straight up. Stewart says the most important things to the workers he represents are job security and sustainability and longevity for the automotive industry, which includes a continued push for the electrification of vehicles. Quote, Donald Trump doesn't understand the industry. It's an easy thing for him to say, but Canada isn't the problem to the United States today, he said. The problem is that we have 5 million cars being sold into the North American market that aren't built in North America. According to Stewart, the first thing Canada needs to do is bargain a good trade agreement, with the second thing being dealing with offshore imports. Quote, getting away from the EV industry is a problem because it's growing everywhere else in the world. The pause and the expense Donald Trump's administration has caused by going all oil is going to cause a problem, being behind the rest of the industry in 5 to 10 years. Industry analyst Tom Venetis doesn't think the timing of the Conservative proposal is helpful with CUSMA negotiations on the horizon. Quote, we have elements in government who seem to go, I hate to use the word rogue, but they seem to go down there and think that they're going to somehow negotiate directly with someone of influence or close to the president, or think that they can make some kind of alternative proposal and bring it back, and that will break the logjam. In reality, according to Venetis, all it ends up doing is fragmenting Canada's approach by adding a layer of uncertainty going forward. Quote, I think some of these ideas are sort of reviving an aspect of the old 1965 Canada-US Auto Pact. This has been sort of bandied about amongst analysts and some politicians as maybe a way of dealing with the United States if CUSMA completely falls apart in this upcoming re-examination of it. Venetis says, as the leader of the official opposition of Canada, he understands Poilievre might have felt compelled to pressure to offer a different auto proposal and put something together. However, he doesn't think the alternative will hit the mark. Quote, they don't seem very well thought out. It's an argument and I don't think he understands will not work. And there you have that as well. Finally, before we go a little bit, there's also some Trump stuff in that things not necessarily going well for him too. At the moment, it would seem that there have been some more attacks on gas facilities that is not making Trump very, very happy. And then he posted this huge lash out on Truth Social and is throwing Israel under the bus a little bit here. Israel, out of anger, well, I have to read this one. I'm sorry, even though it's Donald Trump's ramblings. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field, unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help of consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran, but if Qatar's LNG is attacked again, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. The abuser talk there. But yes, I had nothing to do with it. Apparently, we are to believe. Also, contrary, Barak Ravid, who's a global affairs correspondent for Axios and a CNN analyst, also Washington's correspondent for Israel, Channel 12. Contrary to Trump's statement, senior Israeli and U.S. officials said that the United States had prior knowledge of the Israeli strike and even approved it in an attempt to pressure Iran. After the Iranians retaliated against Qatar's gas fields, Trump is now changing course. Lying. This prompted a mocking kind of tweet or meme. Shout out to Qatar for the worst return on a $400 million bribe in history, with an image of the plane and an image of Donald Trump. Man. Also, not go well for the guy south of us. It would appear that before all of this happened, Iran offered to give away all of its enriched uranium. All of it. And the United States decided it was bomb anyway. This is from MS Now. Let's take a listen.
David? And there was one development yesterday. It builds on reporting MS Now had earlier. Iran offered to give away all of its enriched uranium during the peace talks. And hours later, the U.S. started dropping bombs. And The Guardian broke yesterday that there were British officials. The British National Security Advisor was present in Geneva during that last round of talks. The British were surprised by the Iranian offer. They thought it was credible. They thought the talks should continue. And the British were shocked when the Trump administration started bombing Iran hours later.
David? So, if we, people who are describing this as Donald Trump's war of choice seem to have not known at the time just how right they were when claiming that. But yeah, it seems that there was a big offer there from Iran, and it seemed to be serious, and they bombed anyway. Prime Minister of the UK, there is a screen thing on that claims that Keir Starmer has definitely told Trump to go pound sand. If you see that, that is a piece of disinformation. That did not happen. So do not take that and run with it, and suggest that um, uh, the UK has told him to go pound sand. That didn't actually happen. It seems that the screenshot that is circulating has fabricated on that. Now, a lot of people thinking that Donald Trump's uh, Operation Epstein Fury, Epic Fury, is a distraction from the Epstein files, and therefore that's one of the reasons it wasn't particularly well thought out, because he had to get a distraction quickly. On the Epstein thing, uh, Attorney General Pam Bondi has been asked to testify about what it is that she has done, and in a press conference stated something like, "We have provided 3 million documents, used 500 attorneys working around the clock, have identified either they self-identified or through their attorneys, 1,200 victims who we did our very best to protect their identities, and so we're proud of the work that we've done." Um, Here's one of the things governments like to talk about: we've released 3 million pages of documents or that type of stuff in order to impress you. Here's the thing that you need to keep in mind when it comes to this story. The number of documents they have provided is utterly irrelevant unless they have provided all of them as ordered. So if 3 million documents are all the documents that there are, then you can say, yes, we provided all the documents, up to 3 million of them. And then that number could be impressive. But until such time as it is all the documents, the number, no matter how impressive you may think it is utterly irrelevant, because it is not all. And therefore, we are not impressed. And you do not have anything of which to be proud. So that happened. Also, there is some mocking coming around, such as the Iran war is going so bad for Trump right now, he might need to release the Epstein files as a distraction. From the way started as a distraction to the Epstein files. You have Jimmy Kimmel saying the only war Trump had an exit plan for was Vietnam. Ouch. Yeah, the shortage of cartoons and memes and jokes. Another recent musing from Donald Trump: I wonder what would happen if finished off what's left of the Iranian terror state and left the countries that use it. We don't. Be responsible, the so-called straight. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast. And then someone commented here, on the Strait of Hormuz, we've gone from 1, don't need help, to 2, we need help, to 3, why aren't folks helping, to 4, help is on the way, to 5, not telling you who's helping, 6, help's not actually on the way, but we don't need it anyway, 7, we may just abandon it and leave it to everyone else. That inspires confidence, doesn't it? Jeez. Then we have this with the entire world essentially turning their back to Donald Trump. You have certain cartoons like this: Donald Trump in the middle yelling help, and Germany, no thanks. Japan, that's difficult. UK, not our war. Italy, goodbye. China, we prefer diplomacy. Russia, that doesn't say anything. Other nations involved in this thing: Lithuania saying no thanks, Greece going maybe later, Netherlands no, and then somebody else just holding a suitcase that says no, saying no thanks. So yeah, that's going on. Listen, in politics, when they start mocking you, you are DOA, and Donald Trump has an incredible sort of rate for mocking. But it is coming in faster and furious now. We also have this one here, Kids and Cubs, that you might find really interesting. Editorial cartoonists are having a field day with this. This would be Donald Trump in the straight jacket of Hormuz. Oh my God. And there's a lot more there. Also, with in relation to Greenland, what Trump has been doing, there's been news coming out to a source called DR. Denmark prepared for a possible U.S. attack. It flew blood supplies to Greenland and planned to blow up runways. Key districts in Denmark and Europe are now revealing for the first time what happened during the most critical days when Donald Trump threatened to take Greenland, quote, the hard way. When Danish soldiers were rapidly deployed to Greenland in January this year, they brought explosives with them. The plan was to destroy runways in Nuuk and Kangerlussuaq to prevent American military aircraft from landing troops on the island, should the U.S. president ultimately decide to seize Greenland by force. They also transported blood supplies from Danish blood banks so wounded personnel could be treated in case of combat. This is reported by DR, which over the past year has spoken with central sources in the Danish government, top military officers and high-ranking officials and intelligence sources in Denmark, France, and Germany. All sources have played and continue to play key roles in an international crisis triggered by the United States' demand for control over Greenland. Together, the sources describe an unprecedented year marked by sleepless nights. None of them had concrete intelligence of specific American attack plans against Greenland. Still, many feared in January that the historically important ally, the United States, could attack at any moment. At the same time, Denmark reached out to its European allies, leading to closer cooperation. Quote, with the Greenland crisis, Europe realized once and for all that we must be able to handle our own security, said a French senior official involved in the intense period. A rapid response force consisting of Danish, French, German, Norwegian, and Swedish soldiers was first deployed to Nuuk and Kangerlussuaq. Shortly after, a main force followed, including soldiers from the Danish Dragoon Regiment in Holstebro, elite troops from the Jaeger Corps, and French Alpine troops trained for cold and mountainous warfare. At the same time, Danish fighter jets and French naval vessels were sent to the North Atlantic. According to several sources, the goal of having multinational troops on the ground was to ensure that any U.S. attempt to take Greenland would require a large-scale hostile action, thereby deterring such an attempt. Quote, we have not been in such a situation since April 1940, said a Danish defense source referring to the days before Denmark's occupation during World War II. Unlike in 1940, when Denmark chose not to resist militarily, the government and defense leadership this time decided, after extensive confidential discussions, to take the opposite approach. If the U.S. attempted an attack, Danish forces would be armed and ready to fight. Danish F-35 fighter jets deployed north were also fully armed. All this despite the understanding that Denmark could not realistically withstand a U.S. military attack. Quote, the cost for the U.S. had to be raised. The U.S. would have to carry out a hostile act to take Greenland, said a senior Danish defense source. So, they were taking it very seriously, and they were not kidding. They were not kidding at all. So yeah, Cubs, pretty serious stuff. Before we go, one little bit of news here. There's been lots of comments. Most of CBC's Power and Politics, David Cochran, because he's been away from the anchor desk for quite a while, and people were wondering about him. According to Stuart Benson, he was able to find something, who works for the Hill Times, was able to find something on David Cochran's social media accounts, because he was on a social media hiatus as well. But he went onto social media to dispel, or at least to answer some questions with regard to his absence. And that's a sign that you know that you are loved, appreciated, and are doing good work, and that people think so. When you disappear for a few weeks and people turn around and go, hey, what happened to him? He was good. We liked the way he was doing stuff. But David Cochran has written, as many of you are aware, I have not hosted Power and Politics since mid-February. This has been my choice. I have taken a medical leave that will extend into April. This is a personal matter, and I hope people can respect my privacy in this. I am posting this publicly because there have been many demands for the CBC to explain my absence and some unhelpful speculation about why I'm not hosting. The CBC has to respect my privacy in matters like this. I can assure you this is simply a personal medical leave. I fully intend to return to the show when my leave is over. I have appreciated all the messages asking if I'm okay and when I'm coming back. The P&P team is the best in the business. They care about the show. They care about each other. They care about the audience. You are in very good hands during my absence. So there you go. And a lot of people very happy that he is not gone for good and that he will indeed be returning. It would be nice. Somebody's asking, has P&P viewership gone up in Cochran's absence? It would be nice to see how much it's gone up since he's taken the helm of the show. If it has indeed gone up, because he is doing some pretty good work. The final news I want to bring you, and this might be something that is causing a situation such that Pierre feel he needs to go on Joe Rogan. Some polling numbers that came out from ECOS. Now, we've been talking about polling numbers for Pierre for quite some time yet, or for Pierre's party for quite some time yet. And things are not going very well at all. If we look at 38 Canada, they are showing some really interesting stuff. The break that we talked about some time ago is really taking hold between the two parties. And hopefully my computer will allow me to show this to you. Here it is. This should be it. Come on. You can do it. Let me go. Is this on the screen now? My computer's decided that it is slowing down near the end of the show. Come on, computer. All right. There it is. As you can see here, there is a big break that has started. We had Liberals at 39 and CPC at 38% in January. And at the end of January is around the time that Pierre Poilièvre's leadership review happened. I think it was on the 29th or so. January 25th, we have Liberals 40, Conservatives 38. February 1st, Liberals 42, Conservatives 38. February 8th, Liberals 43, Conservatives 38. February 15th, Liberals 44, Conservatives 38. February 22nd, Liberals 43, Conservatives 38. March 1st, Liberals 44, Conservatives 36. March 8th, Liberals 45, Conservatives 36. And March 15th, Liberals 46, Conservatives 36. Even the polling aggregator has the spread at 10% double digits. And if we are looking at, again, I do not know why the screen is doing this, jumping all around rather than just letting me show you the thing that I would like to show you. Seat production, there it is. We are looking at, on January 18th, Liberals 153 in minority territory and Conservatives at 145. And we are watching a rapid progression from that point, 162 to 136, 173 to 135, 175 to 134, 185 to 125. That's on February 15th, 60 point spread or 60 seat spread. 183 to 128, 190 to 120, 201 to 112, and the most recent data for March 15th, Liberals 209, Conservatives 106. We are talking a 103 point spread. Not point, seat spread, if we went to an election now. And this is not just any one pollster specifically. This is all the polls aggregated together. And it doesn't look like these numbers are going to get better for Pierre and the Conservatives anytime soon, because data released by ECOS polling seems to indicate that Pierre's fortunes are getting worse. According to ECOS, this is what they have picked up in their public opinion polling. And if you are standing, you probably need to sit down. And if you're about to sip something, I'm going to give you a couple seconds to take that sip and then put your glass down so that you don't spit take all over your computer screen. All right. Hopefully, here it is. Kits and cubs. Again, my computer's a little slow, so I do not know what's appearing on your screen right now, if it's the same thing that I'm trying to show you. But if you look at these numbers from ECOS, hopefully they're going to pop up on your screen sometime soon, as I requested. There we go. The Liberals are at 48. The Conservatives are at 27. NDP 15, Greens 5, the Bloc 4, PPC at 2. That's a 21-point advantage, showing the Liberals up 4% since the federal election and the Conservatives down 14, and below the 30% mark, which is deemed to be their floor. So technically, according to ECOS, the Conservatives are. And if somebody was going to model this, this is what it would look like. 3 seats for the Greens, 13 seats for the NDP, 1 for the Bloc in this scenario, 278 of 383 seats for the Liberals, and 48 for the Conservatives. 48 for the Conservatives. But the part that surprises me the most is that the NDP, under the scenario, actually returns to official party status. If we had any doubt for any second that the Conservative Party of Canada is being reduced to its reform regional rump status, there you have it. There's another poll that came out that somebody modeled and was showing the Conservatives at 36 seats. The polling aggregator is still showing them at 100 and something. So, but even with the polling aggregator, Kits and Cubs, there's some interesting shifts. For example, in British Columbia, which was pretty neck and neck, they're showing that the Liberals would pick up 27, Conservatives 14. In Alberta, where the Liberals currently have two seats, they're showing that the Liberals would pick up 8 if there was an election today. In Saskatchewan, where the Liberals have 1 seat currently, it is showing that they would pick up 5. It's really interesting to see here what's going on in these charts. But yeah, things are not going well at all for Pierre. These are numbers that are absolutely atrocious and terrible, which could explain why it is, again, he is going on Joe Rogan, because if the numbers are so bad that he really is being reduced to 36 or 48 seats, if an election was happening today, then yes, absolutely, any place that he can go where the base of his base show up so that he can throw red meat their way is a place that he's probably desperate to go to. But if that happens, however, the more he does that, the more he alienates people in the middle. According to this ECOS poll, the Conservatives lead in every region of the country. 45 to 30 in BC, 41 to 37 in Alberta. The Liberals are even leading in Alberta, according to this ECOS poll. 47 to 31 in Ontario, 49 to 11 in Quebec, and 65 to 23 in Atlantic Canada. And also, I believe, has some realities to age demographics, if I'm not mistaken as well, showing here that, let's see, nope, that is the wrong one. Got the wrong slide here for you. This is the one I'm looking for here, showing that even among the age demographics that the Conservatives are having trouble. If you remember, going to the election, he seemed to be dominating with young people, and there was even some articles, who is the new Conservative voter. With men under 35, Liberals 41 to 25. Men 35 to 49, Liberals 38 and 35. Men 50 to 64, the Liberals are trailing 40 to 48. Men 65 and older, Liberals 53-30. For women under 35, 30 to 19 for the Liberals. Women 35 to 49, 40 to 27 for the Liberals. Women 50 to 64, Liberals 63, Conservatives 19. Women 65 and older, Liberals 74, Conservatives 6. And I'm going to put that up for you to take a look here. But so not only in praise of women, but in praise of women of a certain kids and cubs. These numbers are absolutely devastating for the Conservatives. Absolutely devastating for the Conservatives. Look at this. Look at this spread. And even men 65 and over, 53 to 30. The only group with which Pierre is more popular than Liberals are men 50 to 64, which happens to be my cohort. What the heck? But he's lost the youth. Clearly. The 35 and unders, he's lost them. Going well. So, yeah, if you're wondering what's the reason for all of this flourish of activity on the part of these 4 people, and it just so happens all 4 of them happen to be conservative leaning. Coincidence? But why it is they seem to need all of these distractions, that may be why, because when you have headquarters of people with whom you've given $614 million in contracts to being raided, and there seems to be, have to say many times, on many occasions, based on many subjects, I have done nothing wrong. And a lot of those subjects about which they're saying I've done nothing wrong seem to lead back to your government or funding to your government. That would be an issue. If you notice that you are starting to drop in the polls and you decided to attack students by cutting their OSAP and say that they shouldn't be taking basket weaving courses, and you're talking about electing judges now and talking about, yeah, it's great that he shot this intruder. He should have shot him more times. You might be in trouble. Especially if you have to retroactively change laws so people can't get access to information about what you're doing with the other hand while you're governing. And then if you are already in free fall because you lost an election and lost your seat and then had a leadership review, and after your leadership review, more people, not only from your own party, seem to be abandoning you, but also the general public, you might need a distraction as well. And then, of course, if you decide to start an illegal war with a country in order to distract from something that's really terrible, that's kind of indicating that you're one of the world's worst people, maybe history's worst people, and that doesn't go well too, because, well, you didn't put any thought into it. Nobody ever thought that Iran would attack all these other countries, except a long list of people who did think it before and said it out loud. And you clearly know that they did because you moved some people around so that they wouldn't be in the area where things could go kablooey. But yes, if you're needing us to believe that nobody would had any idea that Iran would act on the Strait of Hormuz, or Iran would try to cause some pain to their Gulf state neighbors, and who a lot of them have sovereign wealth funds that are very, very rich, in order to create some pressure on them to no longer deal with you, you're lying, because everybody saw that coming. But nobody knows more about war. No generals. You know more than all of them. Right, Doug? I mean, Donald? Listen, I know that this is coming at the cost of a lot of upheaval in the world. Iran's being blown to bits. Gulf nations are having dramas dropped on them. There are people displaced in Lebanon. We are all going to suffer from skyrocketing inflation due to gas prices and food prices, because there's no fertilizers, and prices for chips because of the sulfur and helium that are used to make them, that come from oil and gas exploitation. And aluminum costs, because I think I'm not sure what percentage of the world's supply is produced in the area, but it's a significant amount that it may cause the United States to maybe actually reduce some tariffs on us on aluminum, because whatever alternative source they had are not available anymore. When all of this is going on, you might think you need a distraction. Just saying. But for distraction to be good, you need some time to craft it. Some poorly crafted ones may do the trick for a day or two, but their efficacy runs out relatively quickly, and then people come back to the regular issue. That's why some people feel they need to have to flood the zone, like Doug Ford, with a different announcement every day of something really weird that's going to make people go like, that dumb fuck. I'm going to get you discussing about that, rather than the fact that a court ordered him to hand over his phone records and he won't. So yes, I know that this is coming at the cost of a lot of upheaval and a lot of disruption to our lives. But if this was them running their end game, and they have tripped over themselves 100 meters from the finish line, and now it is all going to hell, and perhaps going to hell in ways that neither of them can recover. At least 3 of the 4 of them might not be able to recover. Don't know about Danielle yet. It makes some of the other stuff a little easier to take. Not that it is easy to take war at all. But hopefully, if it leads to these 4 people eventually finding their ways out of office, and perhaps hopefully out of politics, other than efforts, Michelle type efforts. See, I've already forgotten her last name. That's how irrelevant she was to me. That lady from the CPC who represented the Peterborough area, made the videos of her. Ferrari, that's her name. Michelle Ferrari, trying to monetize the fact that she was once key by continuing to shitpost daily on her blue checkmark social media accounts to hopefully be able to get money and clicks and donations from that. Hopefully, if that's the extent of her future in politics for the rest of her lives, she's reduced to that. I'm good with that. And if that could happen to the other 4 in question, at least some good will have come from all of this crap. But the fact that these four of them seem to be scrambling and needing to change their stories on a nearly daily basis, or being able to have feeling the need to inject something else in the public sphere, sometimes things that make them look worse or look terrible, and they decide that looking terrible on those things is an acceptable cost to be able to distract from something that makes them look even worse for a day or two. Hopefully, that means that they are near the end and that something is going to catch up with them relatively soon. And given how long some of these people have been on the public scene, the sooner the better, please. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially if you share a little bit of yourself, but why it is that our content resonates with you, because that is advertising that we cannot buy. And we thank you for doing that. Now, if you'd like to help us in a couple of other ways, one of the ways you can do that, kids and cubs, is if you are not already on our YouTube page, you might want to scan this QR code and go there and click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Let's try that again. Like, share, and subscribe. I tripped over my tongue there. And if you are already on our page and you have not yet smashed with our buttons, now is a good time to do so, particularly the subscribe one, because those help us with the algorithm and it helps people find us. So we thank you. 3 little clicks that you can do to help us become more visible. And kids and cubs, if you'd like to help us in other ways, because, well, you believe that the work that we do has some value, it adds to your day. Either you are more informed or you are entertained, or it just, you like having some downtime time, and you find the chat very supportive. We would appreciate a contribution from you in the form of a cup of hot chocolate or a cup of dark coffee. The hot chocolate for me, of course, the dark coffee for Mr. Grizzly. Just an Atta Grizzly or an Atta Beaver pat on the back. You're doing some good stuff and keep it going. We would very much appreciate that. And you can do that by making a donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund via our coffee page. This QR code will bring you right there, and you can make a one-time donation or a multiple month donation if you want. And we are very grateful for all of your support. So we thank you for that. You can also contribute via YouTube if you're on there. And if that's more convenient for you, the super chat and the memberships there. YouTube does take 30% of your donation through the coffee page. PayPal will take 3 to 5%. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing and you do not want to give the USC Tech Bros any of your money, then you would go to our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and do a direct bank transfer, Canadian Bank to Canadian Bank, 0 service fees. And of course, we get 100% of your donation. So you get more Beaver Bang or more Grizzly Bang for your buck. Your loonie goes further that way. We thank you for all the ways that you are able to support us. And we are very grateful because, again, as fully independent, it is your donations and what we put into it ourselves that make it such that we can continue this venture for you. And, about to start season 6 pretty soon, in about a month or so. So we're still going strong at it. And hopefully you will help us being able to maintain our we're not sprinting, but our light jog, maintain our pace, so that we can continue doing this for years and years and years to come. Because I get a lot out of this, and I love my damn time. So hopefully you do as well, and we can count on your support. Now, kids and cubs, if you are not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because as we often say, the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that mean the most to us. You take time out of your busy day to spend time out of us, and we know that you have a lot of choices. But you can still contribute, if not financially, in word. Right, for example, using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, to give us some guest suggestions. Remember our hashtags, Kids Who Cook if you're preparing something tasty, Kids Who Craft if you are making something that is absolutely divine and creative, and Kids Who Cultivate if you are gardening, and you can offer us a few tips because we are still in learning mode over here, and any help that we can get is most definitely appreciated. Please do use the hashtags, put them on our socials. You can find our socials at True Eager on Blue Sky and on the shitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home. We also have Instagram. We have the Damn Fam Discord that you can join into, and of course our YouTube page in the post section or right below here in the comment section. Let us know what you think. But please communicate with us and let us know what's going on. And if you do have some good news, please send it to us, because as we keep on mentioning, with the rate at which we doom scroll, sometimes we need a break. And when we hear that something good has happened to you, you've had an achievement, you're celebrating something, all that good stuff, it brings a smile to our face and then makes our work much lighter afterwards. So thank you for all you do to make it easier for us to do our work that we bring to you with joy every day. All right, kits and cubs. Let's see, because a democracy is something that you do remember on the 13th of April. That's a by-election day, 3 by-elections, Scarborough Southwest, University Rosedale, and Terrebonne. So please, again, plan your vote. You can vote early at any Elections Canada office right now up until the 7th, and of course at your polling station from April 3rd to the 6th. So again, make your plan to vote, or maybe call up Elections Canada and see if they need some volunteers that you can you can work at a polling station, because that would definitely be helpful. And when I say volunteers, it's more like give your time, because these are remunerated positions. So it's not for free. But if you would like to be more community minded, let's put it that way. Kids and Cubs, we also have House of Commons petition 7148 for you to sign, which is a petition that calls upon the House to make it mandatory that party leaders receive their security clearance, their NSICOP level security clearance, which means that they have to sit for the investigation into that. And so far, all of our party leaders, except one, the cheese who stands alone, Pierre Poilièvre, have done it. So maybe by signing this petition, we could encourage him to do so. Really interesting development. It seems that Danielle Smith specifically says that she is seeking national security clearance from Canada's spy service. That is an interesting plot twist that would definitely put a lot of pressure on Pierre to get his, because if she is, why isn't he? On our show, we've often recommended that this is something that should be an obligation for provincial premiers as well. Now, on the flip side of that, the fact that it's Danielle Smith, the one who's asking, concerns me, because if there's any one premier that I would suspect of potentially using this information against us in some way, it would be her. But she is making the application, according to Matthew Scase of the Globe and Mail. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says she's seeking national security clearance from Canada's spy service so she can receive briefings on foreign interference threats facing her province. Ms. Smith, who made her comments during question period in the provincial legislature on Wednesday, was responding to concerns about potential meddling by foreign actors if the province's fall referendum includes a question about Alberta independence. She said she was pursuing security clearance from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, but did not indicate when she started the process. Quote, I'm going through the process to be able to get a higher clearance so that I can get CSIS briefings, because I would like to know if there's any foreign interference happening in our province. Pierre is going to have to explain why it is he doesn't want to know if there's any of it happening in his country or within his party. The previous day at a provincial committee meeting, Ms. Smith said the RCMP and CSIS had not been, quote, forthcoming with her government about security issues surrounding Alberta's possible vote on secession. Oh, yes, it's them who are not forthcoming. You didn't have to create the situation, Danielle. Quote, I wish we could rely on the RCMP, but they have not been forthcoming on giving us this information, she said when asked by opposition NDP leader Naheed Nenshi about the meddling of foreign actors in a potential independence referendum. Quote, I wish we could rely on CSIS, but they have not been forthcoming at giving us this information because you have to get certain security clearances. Well, then it's not them not being forthcoming, it's them not giving security information to people who don't have the required clearance. That's not a lack of forthcoming. That's them actually protecting the information. But you have to spin it as you being a victim or Alberta being a victim. National security and election experts have expressed concern about the threat of foreign meddling should Alberta hold an independence referendum this fall, specifically provincial agencies' capacity to address those threats. To date, concern is focused on potential interference from the United States. Ms. Smith has scheduled a vote on immigration and constitutional issues for October 19th, and separatists are trying to collect the nearly 178,000 signatures needed to put their secession question on the ballot. The petition effort is taking place after U.S. President Donald Trump stated a desire to amplify his country's influence in the Western Hemisphere and has repeatedly referred to Canada as the 51st state. Keep on going here. In a statement to the Globe and Mail, CSIS spokesperson Lindsay Sloan said the agency has recently expanded its ability to share national security threats with orders of government outside Ottawa. She wrote that CSIS is prevented from looking into advocacy or protests, but would investigate foreign efforts to interfere with domestic politics. Quote, CSIS investigates threats to the security of Canada in accordance with our Act, which specifically excludes lawful protests and dissent, and which would include lawful political advocacy relating to the status of Alberta. Any instance where a foreign state might seek to use covert or obfuscated means to divide Canadians, amplify narratives that don't truly reflect the views of Canadians, or otherwise deceptively interfere in domestic political processes would be of concern and investigated by CSIS. She would not answer questions about Ms. Smith's effort to get security clearance or whether it has briefed Alberta officials on issues of foreign interference. Jody Thomas, who served as the national security and an intelligence advisor to then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, said it's not unreasonable for Ms. Smith to seek a security clearance. Ms. Thomas noted that British Columbia Premier David Eby received a security clearance from CSIS after the killing of a Sikh activist in his province was linked to the Indian government. Ms. Thomas said she can't recall anything from her time as the NSIA, the National Security Intelligence Advisor, that would have required an Alberta Premier to receive a secret or top secret clearance, but CSIS would have reached out if there was an imminent danger or threat. Quote, I actually think that because of the provincial and municipal ties with election interference and the violence we saw in Surrey, BC, it's a good idea for premiers to be read in, Ms. Thomas said. She noted that it takes time to get clearance and it wouldn't happen overnight. Quote, I personally don't think it is at all unreasonable. I think it's good governance, Ms. Thomas said. Artur Wilczynski, a former federal national security official, said a broad-based effort between governments on a national security issue should be priority ahead of a referendum. Quote, in order to have the credibility necessary with various jurisdictions on issues such as a potential referendum on Alberta sovereignty, I think CSIS really needs to work very closely with the government of Alberta in order to mitigate those threats, said Mr. Wilczynski, a senior fellow at the University of Ottawa's Graduate School of Public and International Affairs. Ms. Smith on Tuesday also said her government is preparing to create an intelligence arm in the Alberta Sheriff's Police Service, which is replacing the Alberta Sheriff's Branch. She said the intelligence arm would gather information no different from that gathered by other police services. Dale McPhee, Executive Council Deputy Minister and former Edmonton Police Chief, will help build that arm of the service, she said. The United Conservative Party government is currently working to transform its sheriff's branch, giving sheriffs a pathway to train for full police officer roles. The new agency could replace the RCMP in 2032 when Alberta's contract with the Mounties expires. So, yeah, there's a little bit of interesting news there as well. Also on the democracy is something you do file. Kids and Cubs, if you're a member of the NDP, you can vote until the 29th in that leadership race. There's a leadership race going on in British Columbia as well for the BC Conservatives and the province of Quebec for the new leader of the CAQ. So if you can get your memberships, if there's still time to register for that, make sure that you're voting in those. That would be a very good idea because that's where the real action is again. If you want good quality candidates come general election time, you need to vote in the leadership races as well. All right. And of course, we have the high-speed train consultation with Alto that closes on March 29th. altotrain.ca is where you go to be able to participate online. There are virtual and in-person meetings taking place as well during the course of this process. And I think I've hit everything. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. My words of wisdom are going to be relatively simple today. It's just breathe. There's a lot of flooding of the zone happening. And again, lots of articles out there wanting you to react. We have lots of conservatives online claiming that the left allegedly is melting down because Pierre did Rogan. Of course, there's no such evidence. And to be totally honest, if the left melted down as many times as these influencers want or seem to need us to, we would all die. We would all have died of malnutrition quite a while ago from just being in the corner sobbing and not having enough energy to actually even feed ourselves. But they seem to live in a fantasy world where they need us to be crying and melting down at every little thing that they do that they think is genius. So, I mean, who am I to, to remove their dreams from them? I'm not that cruel. But yes, don't react to that kind of stuff. It's really not worth it. So those are my words of advice. Just walk on by. Just walk on by. All right, kids, or scroll on by in this case. Kids and cubs, it can be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And we will meet again tomorrow. Hopefully, Restream will cooperate and we'll be able to start at a regular time. All my love. And at the count of 3, may I please hear you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. There's the good stuff right there. I heard it. I heard it loud. I heard it proud. And here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Are we back yet? Yes, we are. Okay, just a little tiny bit of news of Canadians who make us proud. Tennis player Liam Drexel, who finally made it into the first draw of his first ATP 1000 event. That wasn't the local event in Canada, by winning the qualification matches that he needed to do to get in order to achieve the feat. He's a name that we have been mentioning on the show that we need to start looking out for, because we will hear from him a lot if the potential he has shown to date does materialize, if he's able to bring it to that higher level. So he's getting a chance. He tried in Indian Wells and got to the second round, but didn't make it all the way in. But this week he did. So he will be playing later today against Kante Halis of France, which is a match that he actually could have a good chance of winning to advance to the second round and solidify himself as one of the top 100 players in the world. He's still a little ways from it. He's ranked about 142nd in the world, but he is starting to earn his way into the biggest tournaments on the circuit, which seems to indicate a very strong possibility that he might be able to make it into the top 100 in earnest at some point this year. I thought it was going to happen for him last year, but he seemed to have more of a consolidation year last year, and now seems to be on the verge of breaking in to the really big leagues. So we will send him a little shout out. And then this one is not for Canadians who make us proud, but for Venezuelans who make us proud, because the Venezuelan national baseball team was able to defeat the United States in the final of the World Baseball Classic playoffs. So thank you for that. There's a lot of people in the world that were very happy that took place. On that front, unfortunately, it would appear that the men's baseball team, this was a qualifier for the Olympics. And even though the United States that Canada did make the playoff round, the way that everything panned out, they just missed a spot. and probably will not be competing in the 2028 Olympics in baseball. And also in women's basketball, the World Cup of women's basketball is taking place, and unfortunately, Canada lost 3 of its 5 pool matches, and a lot of them, all 3 of them that they lost was by 6 points or fewer. So they were very close matches, but they weren't able to get the wins in the end, and they did not advance to the playoffs in that tournament. It's a bit shocking, actually, but that's the way it happened. So that's what I have for you today, but still proud of their effort, of course, and for going that far. That's all I have for you right now.